executive orders don't have anything to do with this dialogue.
They're gonna.
I think that right now you're trying to muddy the waters. The fact of the
I'm
matter
not.
is, I asked you what exactly in that bill you think is terrible, and then you said granting the president special authority to shut the border down when there's 5,000 daily or weekly crossings, and you said that specifically is terrible. We then went
It
over
is.
how the president doesn't have any special authority to shut the border down at any point now, right? So what's better, the president having the special authority to shut the border down at 5,000 daily or weekly crossings, or the president not having any special authority to shut the border down, regardless of what the daily or weekly crossings are? And you agreed it's better for the president to have that special authority at 5,000 crossings compared to not having it at all at any level of crossings, meaning that you actually don't think that provision of the bill was terrible in contrast to what we would have had and have now because it didn't pass, which is the president having no special authority at all. So you actually conceded that the provisions of the bill were progress and steps in the right direction in accordance with your goals.
No, I actually disagree with what you're saying.
Okay, what
I answered
exactly
your
did I say
question.
there that you disagree with?
Okay.
What exactly
I
did
disagree.
quote me?
All right. What I disagree with is you asked me, is it better to have some kind of plan that keeps some kind of check in terms of numbers that come through? And I said yes. But the issue is simple. If you know that Biden actually, when this whole thing didn't plan, what did he do? Did he control the border? Did he? Yes or no?
Biden
No,
has
no, 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 no.
nothing to
Did
do
he?
with the
Did
dialogue
he?
at all.
He did. Oh, but this is the context here.
We'll happily talk about Biden once we're done talking about this provision of the bipartisan border bill. I mean, this is literally the nastiest pivot like of all time, right? We're talking about a particular subsection of the bipartisan border bill and why you think it was bad, right? And then I absolutely like walked you through how it's actually good, even in accordance with your own goals, right? And then you're like, no, Dean, I completely disagree with you. I was like, specifically quote what I said, right, that you disagree with. And then you're like, sure, Dean, I'll specifically quote what you said that I disagree with. And then you didn't quote anything that you said. In fact, you brought up somebody who I haven't even talked about yet, who was Biden, right? Dude, so no but Bidens. Drop the pivot. Okay, explain to me precisely, right, how my line of thought there on the bipartisan border bill and that provision of granting the president special authority to shut the border down if there's 5,000 daily or weekly crossings is good, even in accordance with your own goals. Don't pivot, sir. Makes you look like a bad debater.
No. It's not that I'm pivoting.
It is.
It's the context. Well, his context.
Context
The context
to what?
Context to what I'm referring.
What are you
when I
referring
say a number,
to?
it's
Let's
best.
just get clear. What are you referring to?
I am referring to having a hard number in terms of a plan that would keep people on the other side, not allowing a certain number through. That's ideal. However, what I'm trying to convey is I don't like the number. I don't think 5,000 is a reasonable number. And the reason I mentioned Biden, the reason I mentioned executive orders is because the numbers will always be controlled by executive orders. And the reason I bring up Biden is because he had to do that.
I've tried to re-explain this to you like multiple times now. This is going to be my last time trying to explain this concept to you. If you don't get it this time, I'm going to kick you and move on to the next guest, right? Because we're just simply not getting anywhere because of your lack of an ability to understand the simple concept that I'm conveying, okay? For the very last time, sir, okay, I really want you to listen to me. I understand that you're telling me that you think that number of 5,000 is unreasonable, right? And that number should be, in your mind, special authority to shut the border down, right?
I think the number is unreasonable, yes.
Exactly. I understand that's what you think. We all understand that's what you think. But what I'm saying is that even in accordance with your goal here, still yet giving the president that special authority to shut the border down when there's 5,000 daily or weekly crossings is significantly better than not giving the president that authority at all, regardless of what the number of crossings are. Right?
If that's the only number that you possibly could have in a situation without executive orders, and if executive orders could be better, I would disagree.
So you disagree that giving the president the special authority to shut the border down at 5,000 crossings is
that's
better
what I was trying to
than not
communicate to you.
giving the president that special authority at all?
Yes, because executive orders are going to trump that. That's what happened. That's what Biden ended up doing. That's why I was going down that path afterwards regarding Biden. How do you stop everything? He did executive orders, which everybody told him to do. So you don't have to have this plan. Just put in executive orders. He waited, and he finally did. And he's like, hey, look, the numbers went down.
And then it's back to Biden. I appreciate you for coming up. I'm going to move on to the next guest. Dude, I'm sorry. He just like couldn't debate me, right? He couldn't like stay on subject. he couldn't have a conversation about like that one really terrible point that he made. So then his automatic refutation was, but Biden. Oh my God, dude. Listen, man, when you get caught on a point, okay, and I want to make this like incredibly clear to like all the Trump supporters in here, when you get caught on a point, you can't just go, but Biden. Like, oh my God. You know, he tried his best though, so I'll give him that. We're gonna move on to the next guest. Thank you guys so much for all the love over on TikTok. I appreciate y'all. As well as if I'm acting like, you know, a little bit more like hard, or I'm being a little bit more angry or mean than I usually am. I've had a really long day, guys. I mean, Tofu, I appreciate you for the galaxy. You know, like usually before I go live to do these debates, I'll wake up, go to the gym, have a nice relaxing morning and a cup of coffee. Today, I've been up since 5 a.m. on plans, so it's been a long one. What's going on? Do you support Trump?
Yes, I support Trump.
Okay, how old are you?
18.
And what year were you born in?
Like 2012.
All right. I would not make you 18, sir. Let's go ahead and move on to the next guest and move on from the 4-year-old. We got that next guest loaded up into the box right now. If you happen to be one of the 9.1 thousand people hanging out with us over on TikTok, guys, make sure that we're double tapping away on that phone screen. As well as Deirdre. Thank you so much for the $50 over on PayPal. Deirdre, thank you so much for your guidance. That is so incredibly awesome of you. I want to see 500 big Deirdre W's down below in that comment section. Thank you so much, Deirdre. That is Diedra. Thank you so much for the love. Deirdre with a $50 says, just how do I, as a 28-year-old Canadian female, know more about American politics than these Trump supporters? Thank you for all that you do, Dean. Well, thank you so much, Deirdre. You probably do. I mean, I think I've seen your name before, so you've been hanging out with us for a while. You're an absolute icon. Thank you for the $50. Show some love to Deirdre down below in that comment section. As well as Morgan. Thank you so much for the $10 over on PayPal, who says, whenever I see that you're on live, I'm like, my show is on. Let's go, Morgan. Yes, your show is on for the evening. We're doing a late night show tonight. Thank you so much for the love, Morgan. As well as Lewis, thank you so much for the $20 over on PayPal, who says, Dean, big fan. Thank you so much for the love, Lewis. Show some love to Lewis down below. And then Bailey with the $10. Thank you for the love, Bailey. Show some love to Deirdre, Bailey, and Lewis. And then one last big one here, Alexis. Thank you so much for the $30 over on PayPal. Alexis says, thank you for speaking up for us. The best part of my day was yelling to protesters out my car window, telling them that I love them. You've given me the tools I need to advocate for people who've lost their voices. I think that you're awesome, Alexis. I've done that too. I did that at the first No King's Day protest, and I remember it being a whole lot of fun. Thank you for the $30. I appreciate you for being here, and thank you so much for your kindness. Show some fucking love to Alexis down below. While we are looking for the next Trump supporter right now, we already got Andy loaded into the live. F-Style Life, I appreciate you for that, Galaxy. Andy, do you want to go ahead and unmute? What's up, man? Do you support Trump?
Sorry, I was just muting so you could thank your gifters. I'm sorry, I'm on my boyfriend's account. I'm 31.
All right, yeah. And do you support Trump?
I do.
Okay, sounds good. But before we hop into it, I just had to read this one off. Lisa with a $10 in Super Chat says, Dean is so triggered. Sis, calm down. He's making valid points. You've been deflecting with nonsense. Excuses for Biden's quote-unquote path to citizenship was too hard, so record numbers crossed. Lisa, listen, thank you so much for the $10. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take that and I'm going to multiply it by 10 and I'm going to donate it to an immigrant advocacy group. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. That's awesome of you. Go ahead and take it away. What is your name?
Sarah.
Sarah. Go ahead and take it away, Sarah.
Yeah.
Tell us why you support Trump as president.
So my main thing, honestly, kind of like bouncing off of what you just said, on the 10th of September, when all that happened, you said that you were going to donate all of the gifts and donations that you got from the lives that you were doing from Charlie Kirk's incident, memorial, whatever.
Yeah, to donate it to like gun advocacy groups for gun reform.
Yeah, I haven't seen a receipt from that, so I'm just wondering where that would be.
Yeah, I dropped that in my Discord a handful of weeks ago.
You dropped the receipt on the Discord?
Yes. So why do you
can you
support
post
Trump?
it on Twitter or?
I mean, I said I'd drop it in my Discord on live. Feel free to go check out the Discord. I'm sure the people in it right now will probably identify and bump it. But anyways, why do you support Trump? This is a little bit off topic.
Yeah, I don't. I'm leftist, but I'm just trying to make sure that you stand by your word.
Okay, so you lied
So
to me
can
about
you
being a
post it
Trump
on
supporter.
Twitter or
No, I'm not going to post it on Twitter because I dropped it in the Discord.
so you're not gonna you specifically said you would post it publicly on Twitter.
I said I'd post it publicly on Discord. Is that not enough for you?
No, because you said you
So
couldn't figure
why
out
is
how
it not
to
enough
turn
to
your gifts
why
off.
is it not enough to post it on Discord, but it would be enough to post it on Twitter? Like I guess from my
Yeah,
perspective, I'm confused.
I
No,
can answer
Sarah,
that
just
for
give me a
you.
second. From my
Go
perspective,
ahead.
I'm confused because I like publicly shared the receipt of my donation to a gun advocacy group to reduce gun violence in this country. I publicly shared that on Discord. Like public is public, regardless if it's on Discord or on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that for you. So the entire live, you came on and off, and you said that you couldn't figure out how to turn your gifts off,
Right, which is true.
right? So when you're already on live, you can't turn your gifts off, as far as I'm aware. But when you come back onto live, you can turn your gifts off, and you didn't. So I'm just
Because I
wondering,
didn't end my live on that day. I didn't like end and restart my live.
as far as I was watching, I thought you did end and come back.
No, I just ended and then left for the day.
Okay, so you said you posted it in your Discord?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm just curious because,
I could share it again if you missed it.
yeah, I mean, if you could share it
Because it looks
you,
like in like the last month, the chats have been archived by the mods and then like reset up. I think they do that to clean the chats every month. So I could repost it right now.
okay, so that wasn't like my fault or anyone else's fault.
I mean, are you even in the Discord?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just looking at what I'm seeing in the chat, like literally right now in the Discord. Apparently, it's being speculated that the lives were archived and then replaced. So why should I also post it on Twitter? That's a little bit of an odd request.
Because you made it very publicly known that you were going to donate all of the funds that you received to
Right,
anti-pew
through
pew
Discord.
violence
Right, I
organizations
made it
and
publicly known
families.
I'd donate the gifts that I got
Great. So
on
I'm still
TikTok
talking. So I
to
had
a gun
don't. I
to a
great.
gun advocacy
I
group. That's
sent
right.
to you. Right. Yeah, I sent to you because I thought that's what you were doing,
That's
and then I
that's
never saw.
is what I did. So, but like, I know my
I'm
question to you,
sorry.
I don't think that you're understanding my question. So my question is like, why is publicly sharing it on Discord not enough? And I should also publicly share it on Twitter because
Because
that's what you
you
said.
stated that.
Okay, I said that I'd share it on my Discord. I think that you're confused, but like as I already said, public is
I'm
public.
not confused. I can pull up the audio,
If you
Dean.
want me to be honest,
But
I think that you're just looking for things to complain about because you don't like me.
no, that's not the issue at all.
Listen.
My
Like,
problem is that
like I
did
shared it
that.
publicly. Like, what is going to be the relevant distinction of like where I share it if I shared it publicly?
Because many people, if you did share it in your Discord, did not see that you shared it.
Okay,
I, as one of the people that donated to you,
right.
did
I'm not
not
gonna blame
see
you. I'm not
that
gonna.
you
I'm
put
not
that
like.
somewhere
I'm not.
else.
Listen. I'm not like upset at you for like not seeing it. I'm just really confused on what your point is because I made it publicly available. And if you didn't see that, I'm not gonna blame it on you. I don't expect like every single person ever to be like active in my Discord 24/7. So I'm not gonna like
Right.
criticize you or ridicule you for like not seeing it when I posted it in one of my Discord chats.
So why are you upset?
Well, no, I'm not upset. I'm just simply asking you because when I told you that I shared it on Discord, like seemingly that answer wasn't enough for you, and then you're like, well, now I'm mad at you because you didn't share it on like Twitter.
No, I'm not mad at you at all. I asked you if you did donate that money because I had sent you money,
Okay, all right. Well,
and that was what I donated it for.
well, now that I've been like clear to you that I did, and I posted a public receipt on the Discord. Anything else, Sarah?
No, we're good, Dean. Have a good.
All right, awesome. Next time, just make sure to follow the rules, guys. We're only looking to talk to Trump supporters. Go ahead and hop in that queue if you happen to be MAGA, guys. Go ahead and hop in that queue if you happen to be MAGA, everyone. We're going to go to get that next guest loaded up and connected to the live stream right now. All right, folks, here we go. Just make sure if you are in that box that you are a Trump supporter. We will happily get you connected, loaded up in the box. We got Bree connected, connecting right now. Hey, what's up? How old are you? Hello? All right, they're not here. We're going to move on to the next guest. Just make sure if you find yourself in that queue that you are an American MAGA adult that is pro-Trump. We'll happily get you loaded up in and connected. So also, just in case like the Discord chats were archived and like people on Discord can't just like search images that like I posted in the channels to find it themselves, I am just gonna go ahead and reshare it now. So just thought I'd put that out there for everyone that's interested. Yeah, just doing it right now. All right, let's go and get that next guest loaded up into the box. Go ahead and hop in that queue. If you are Maga, we'll get you connected up in. We got Andy Watts loading into the stream. Here we go. Hey, what's up, Andy? Do you support Trump? Brian, thank you for the galaxy. Hello?
Hello.
All right, we're going to go to ban you, move on to the next guest. Go ahead and hop inside of that queue if you happen to be an American adult that supports Donald J. Trump as president. If I'm going to be honest with you folks, I'm not really finding any. A lot of people that are just kind of breaking the rules. Let's go and get that next guest loaded up into the box right now, everyone. And if you want to support me, you can find my Venmo and my PayPal in the link tree in my bio, as well as in the pinned message over on the Super Chat. I appreciate over on the YouTube, where you could also support through Super Chat. I appreciate you guys. WJP, appreciate you for the galaxy. That is incredibly kind of you, as well as Unreality. Thank you so much for the 10 Australian dollars over on YouTube Super Chat. And Zachary, thank you so much for the $10 over on Super Chat as well. Shout out to Zachary and Unreality. I really appreciate you both for the love. And at this point, we're going to go and move on to the next guest, Amy. While we're getting Amy up in here, Mary, thank you for the $10 over on Venmo. Thank you so much. Then Audie with the $5. Thank you so much, Audie. Shelby with the $5. Thank you so much. And then Greg, Craig, this came in 14 minutes ago, but Craig, thank you so much for the $50 over on Venmo. I really appreciate you for that love, Craig. Let's get 500 big Craig W's down below in that comment section. Thank you so much for the $50, man. That is so incredibly generous and kind of you. Craig with the $50 says, keep up the good fight. Donating to you is so much more satisfying than donating to Act Blue. Democrats should long ago have dealt with Trump and MAGA before the country sunk to this low. Thank you so much for your kindness, Craig. I think that you're awesome. Big W Craig down below. And what is up, Amy? Do you support Trump?
I do.
All right, Amy. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. You don't have to answer, but I'm just kind of curious. How old are you?
I'm old.
All right. I was just asking. But anyways, go ahead and take it away. Tell us why you support Trump.
Well, I first want to ask you a question. Why are you not thanking Trump for signing the executive order to save TikTok?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I need to get on my hands and knees and start praying to
No,
the sky. Okay.
I'm not saying that, but you were just rude to the last speaker. I don't understand that. She was just asking you questions, and you were pretty rude. I mean, we're human beings, and we have opinions, and we support a president that we think is doing a really good job.
Okay.
And
that last guest, like, point number one, I wasn't trying to be rude to the last guest. I think as I clarified maybe like 30 minutes ago at this point, I've been up since 5 a.m. I've been on and off planes all day. I hopped off the plane and then came and like sat down and recorded and edited a video. I'm just like really tired, if I'm going to be honest. And like, I'm trying to be kind of respectful, but I feel like I'm like likely being more blunt than like I usually am. And I didn't mean to be rude to that last guest, right? But I did feel as if like that last guest was like unfairly attempting to demand something that's like unrealistic, right? Because like, you know, like she came up here with like the issue, believing that like I didn't post like a public receipt of like this donation that I had promised to make. Then I was like, hey, listen, I did publicly share that receipt. I posted it on Discord. And like, instead of the response being like, oh, thank you for the clarification, Dean, all of a sudden, right, my original critique and what I came up here to voice my opinion about has now been solved, right? Because you are now informing me that you did post that publicly, right? Instead, a response was to just shift the goalpost and be like, well, actually, I'm still mad at you because you didn't post it on Twitter. Right. So I don't know. I found that to be like, you know, a little annoying, if I'm going to be frank. But what I will say to you is that last guest actually wasn't a Trump supporter. She was a leftist. And Donald Trump has called like leftists the enemy. Donald Trump has said that he hates Democrats. He's identified Antifa as a terrorist organization. I bet she'd self-identify as anti-fascist for sure. So if you think that I was being rude to her, do you think that like Trump is rude to her and people like her and me and everybody else watching like every single day?
I think he's just responding to the way people, I mean, he was shot at by who?
What's that?
He was shot.
So yeah, President Trump was shot in the air. Yeah.
Right, right. And who was he shot by?
Honestly, like I forget the guy's name. Some like dorky white guy.
Is he a Democrat?
I think he was a registered Republican.
I don't know about that.
Wait, no, he was. Yeah, no, he was a registered Republican. We don't really know anything about him. I remember that. Like we know nothing about the guy that shot Trump. I don't know how that's relevant to our conversation at all, though. I mean, what's the relevance?
Well, you're saying I think it was a Democrat. I don't think it was a Republican. But I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't I don't agree with everything that Trump does. Personally, I think I voted for Trump because I thought he was a better candidate than the other candidate. I mean,
Okay.
she was listening to other people. She didn't even have her own. Doesn't have the experience like Trump has. She was listening to everybody. She couldn't come up with her own words to express anything. And a lot of times she was slurring her words throughout her candidacy. And I don't know. I just, based on experience, that's why I voted. And I also don't believe that illegal immigrants should be allowed in our country. There's a process.
Yeah.
And we can't go into another country illegally, can we? No, we're going to be thrown out. We're not allowed to go into any other country and get free things.
Okay. Well, point number one, you told us that America would be worse off today if like Kamala Harris was elected because sometimes she slurred her words. I mean, like I
No, I think that's not what I said. You're twisting my words.
okay.
That's not what I said. I
Clarify,
said I
please.
voted against Carmela because I
Kamala.
didn't feel Carmela, right? Well, I'm Bostonian, so it's probably not, I'm not pronouncing it right. But anyways, I voted for her. I didn't vote for her because I didn't think she had the experience. Not only that, she
I
was
have a
being
question. Would you do you,
fed
if the
her
JD Vance
information.
if JD Vance ran in the next general election against somebody like Gavin Newsom, would you vote for Vance?
I don't know, to be honest. I've been a Democrat. I mean, I've been an independent my whole life. I'm not Republican. I'm not independent. I mean, I'm not a Democrat. I've been in between. I've been neutral.
Okay. Well, how about this? Arguably, I'd say you're telling us that Harris didn't have the experience. I'd actually argue that she has more experience than Trump, right? Because unlike Trump, she served in all three branches of government. Starting off with the
Hmm.
judicial branch of government, she was a lawyer in San Francisco. Then she was the DA of San
The
Francisco,
DA,
California.
yeah.
And then she became the AG of the whole state of California. Or the legislative branch, for instance. She served as a senator of California for 4 years. Or the executive branch, where she worked under the Biden administration as his vice president. And quite frankly, if you ask me, was more effective and more active as the vice president of the United States of America during her 4 years than Donald Trump was during his first 4 years as the president, right? I mean, like, here, how about this? I could very easily name like 4 or 5 things that she did when she was vice president. You know, she passed the most tie-breaking votes in Senate out of any VP in history, and she worked with Biden to pass the infrastructure bill to rebuild our roads, infrastructure, make jobs, get people paid, etc. She worked with Biden to pass the Chips and Science Act to subsidize American chip producers, to bump our global supply from like 1% to 30. She worked on the PACT Act to fund the VA $800 million to expand their benefits to over 4 things she did as VP were off the dome. Can you name like 2 things that Donald Trump did as P during his first administration that are worthy of praise? Can you?
He lowered the unemployment rate.
He lowered unemployment. How did he do that?
Yes.
No answer? I can't work with that.
Yeah.
How did he do it? How did he lower the unemployment? By the way, I'm gonna repeat this. I don't. I'm like, I'm sorry if I'm coming off as like a rude a-hole. I'm trying my best not to. Um, I'm just so tired. I'm gonna repeat that to you, and probably other guests today. I'm sorry if I am. I'm really trying not to. By the way, Amy, you left the TikTok app. I can't hear you when you do.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, well, so just to catch you up, you told us that he lowered the unemployment rate during his first term, and I asked you how. Do you have a response? You can be honest. If you don't have a response, that's fine.
I
Just tell me.
don't. I don't have a response.
No
I
worries.
mean,
No worries.
I think, with jobs, a lot of jobs, that was lowering providing all the jobs with, I don't know. I just feel like I'm put on the spot here.
All right. Well, I,
But
I did. I definitely did put you on
yeah,
on the spot. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, because I'd rather talk about other things, but that's all right. I'm not really I'm tired myself. I'm tired. And I also just, when I was on here, I actually like you, Dean. I think, you know, you do your job well on here. I think you have a lot of, you're a good checker, and, you know, you do your job appropriately. But I think sometimes you can be, rude, really rude. And yeah, I just think you could be rude and you can be a little nicer.
Listen,
We're just,
I'll continue. I'll continue to strive to be kinder, like when possible. But I would say for the most part, like I think it's acceptable for me to match the energy of people that'll come up onto this stream. And quite frankly, I think it's very frequent we'll have people come up onto this stream and not be too nice themselves. And it's just kind of like, if you can't take it, then you shouldn't dish it. But
right.
like one last thing I'll add on here, just respond to your last point. Then you said you're tired, so I'd assume that you're going to leave after this. Is that you can't just blame, right, anything that happens in the country on the president. So I'd assume when you're saying that he was super good for the unemployment rate, you'd be looking at like the 1 point under his term, right, where he had like a 50-year low level of unemployment, writing off the macroeconomic trends from Obama. All right. Well, he also had the highest level of unemployment in the last 100 years in April of 2020 at 14.8%. Can I basically assume that he caused that the same way you're basically assuming that he caused a 50-year low?
No, I don't agree with that.
Okay. So why can you basically assume, but I can't?
No, I mean, you have that right. You have that opinion. You have that right. Is that accurate? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that you know, what you're telling me is accurate.
Okay.
And I think I should have done some more research on my part. And this is the first year I voted for Trump. It was a really hard decision for me, to be honest. But I just feel like we're in a better place with him running the country than the other opponent.
Okay.
And
Wait, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, here's my
yeah,
thoughts. I think that the country would be significantly better off if Kamala Harris won. Like I
hmm
asked you like why you didn't like her. At first you said, she kind of slurred her words sometimes. And then you said, well, you don't really know if she was too qualified. Then I went through her qualifications and you had no response. Okay? Right? But if you were to ask me why I don't like Trump, I would be like, he pardoned 72 people that tried to kill cops on the steps of our Capitol. Holy shit! He tried to rig and steal the outcome of a federal presidential election by sending fake slates of electorates to key swing states to cast fake votes back to Congress, and then he attempted to pressure Mike Pence into certifying them as real while having his supporters storm the Capitol, fucking scream and hang Mike Pence if he doesn't. Holy shit! He was adjudicated by a court of law to have raped a woman. Holy shit! He was best buddies with Epstein and
he
was sending
actually
Epstein
did. He
letters.
was not
Okay.
criminally charged on that rape. That was a civil charge against that woman, not a criminal charge
Right.
against Trump.
It was civil. But listen, I still think that the court proved it beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt. We could go through my reasons why if you want.
Well,
But
you know what? She wrote a
my point here is just like, right, which like arguments here are like more consequential, more meaningful, and more meaningful and more compelling, right? You accusing Kamala Harris of like slurring her words sometimes and kind of being unqualified, then having no response to me when I give you her qualifications, or Donald Trump like purporting the greatest threat to the American democracy since the Civil War with J6 being civilly adjudicated to have raped a woman, being best buddies with the largest billionaire child sex trafficker, Jeffrey Epstein, and sending him letters depicting the body of a naked girl, or, you know, like passing the most expensive bill in modern American history, all of modern American history, while also kicking 10 million people off healthcare and 3 million people off food stamps in the process, right? Like, obviously, right, my reasons right there why I think that Donald Trump is a bad president, which are very limited, I could go on for another 10, 15 minutes, are like extremely, right, worse, right, than like your two reasons why you said you don't think Kamala Harris would make a good president. And I feel
Well,
like it doesn't take much common sense to be able to agree with that.
it's not just that. I mean, I followed her candidacy. I watched her, and she had earbuds in her ears, right? She was listening to somebody else. She wasn't using her own words.
No,
If you follow her at every stop that she made, she had those. You don't believe that?
I
And that's the
don't.
thing, like, you don't know
Amy,
what to believe.
that's a conspiracy theory. I could prove that's a conspiracy theory. Because
Go ahead.
the earrings that you're talking about are a legitimate collection sold by Tiffany and Co. that you could find publicly available on their website.
And who says that they're not? She can't hear somebody on them.
A side-by-side comparison of the earrings she was wearing in her debate with Trump compared to the picture of the Tiffany & Co. earrings off of their publicly available website, and while also a comparison to the fucking like Temu like earring headphone things where you could hear volume through. Like, obviously, right, that what she was wearing was identical to the Tiffany & Co. earring set that was I think I read somewhere that it was like a gift from a friend or something, and like not identical at all, but like similar in color, right, to like the earring headset, you know, phone a friend shit from Temu, right? You know, like it's a conspiracy theory. And listen, this is another reason why Donald Trump is a terrible president. It's because when he like he's pissed off with the facts, right? The fact of this matter was the fact that Kamala Harris had destroyed him so terribly in that debate. He'll just come up with a conspiracy theory to ignore that fact. In this circumstance, is that she was colluding with somebody and hearing and listening to them and repeating their words through a headset, right? And then you just fucking buy it, right? You know, like the Achilles tendon to democracy is an ill-informed electorate. And I think that Donald Trump has conned you into being a part of the largest misinformed electorate in modern American history because of him and his lies.
She was the vice president with Biden, and she allowed him. She allowed him. She could have contributed in supporting getting him some help. He was not a well president, and she walked along with him, and he was not well and did nothing. Did absolutely nothing.
Okay. Name three things that Trump did. Biden did the CHIPS Act, the PACT Act, the infrastructure bill. Yeah, that talking point, thumbs down.
No, you know what? I need to be more prepared. I'm not prepared. And I was actually surprised that you, because I waited like 3 hours the other day to come on here. And I'm just too tired. It's 10:30. It's late for me. And I do want to come back and debate you when I'm more prepared. And I'm not prepared.
All right. Well,
And
you
I'm
have,
also receiving all these comments that are not very nice. And I don't appreciate it. So I'm going to say goodnight.
all right, Amy.
Thank you, Dean.
All right, Amy. You have a good rest of your evening. Let's
But
go
I
ahead
do
and,
have a lot. I do have a lot of facts of why I voted for Trump. I voted for many reasons, but I'm just too tired to go through them. And I waited, a couple hours to get on here, so I'm going to say goodnight.
Okay.
But I will
well,
come back. I
listen,
hope you.
Feel free to come back. Feel free to come back.
All right.
You got it. You
Thanks,
got it, Amy.
Gene.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go ahead and get that next Trump supporter up in here. Go ahead and hop in that queue if you happen to be an American adult that supports Trump as president. We'll get you loaded up in and connected to the live. For the 11.3 thousand people hanging out with us for the day, I appreciate you guys for being here. And also just one thing, I would appreciate it if, like, to not send like mass harassment towards like the way of like the guests, right? And the only reason I say that is because I think it like disincentivizes people joining. You know what I mean? But of course, like freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences. And I'm gonna be honest, like when there's like a guest up here that's just saying some crazy fucking shit, right? I don't really care what their comment section looks like, as long as it's law abiding, TikTok TOS abiding, so on and so forth. What's up? Do you support Trump?
Yes, sir.
All right. How do you?
46.
All right. Well, it's nice to meet you. Let's have a discussion about why. Before we hop into that, I do want to go ahead and thank a handful of people for their donations very, very quickly. Lori, thank you for the $10 over on Venmo. Lori says, thank you for standing up to MAGA. I appreciate you for the 10. That is incredibly kind of you. As well as, let's see here, Jessica, thank you for the $3 over on Venmo. And Sarah, thank you so much for the gift card. It's not telling me what the gift card is to. But thank you. I'll have to check that out later. Fuck yeah. Appreciate you for the gift card. Hell yeah. As well as just looking out at PayPal here super duper quickly. Jay, thank you so much for the $125 over on PayPal. Dude, Jay. Oh my God. Jay with $125 says, because you do deserve it. The both of you and Parker, you've turned me into a bloody activist. Love as always. Jay, you've been watching these goddamn streams for months now. You are a core member of the Dean Team Dream Team, the community as I like to call it. Thank you for being here and thank you for your support. You know my thoughts. I don't think I deserve it, but I really do appreciate you for your kindness and your generosity. Show some fucking love to Jay. As well as Kimberly, thank you for the $20 over on PayPal, who says, always good to catch one of your streams. Thank you for keeping up the fight. Thank you, Kimberly. Show some love to Kimberly for the 20. As well as Anna, thank you for the $15 over on PayPal. Heidi with the 10. Trinity with the 5. Oh my God. And Alex! Oh my God! Alex! Holy shit! And thank you, Alex, for the $500 donation on PayPal. Oh my God. Oh my God. Holy shit. Dude, guys, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say. Alex, that is insane. Thank you. What the fuck? Alex, so they attached a message with the $500 donation. They said, keep up the good work. You know what, Alex? You fucking got it. Okay, you got it, Alex. I'll be keeping up the good work. While we're hopping into this debate with this new guest, if I could please seriously have everybody watching to show some massive love to both Jay and Alex down below in the comment sections. Thank you to the both of you. I mean, I don't think that my words could ever truly express just how thankful I am for your kindness and how humble I am in accepting it. And just the fact that I truly believe I don't deserve that shit. And you guys have just decided to be so kind. Thank you, Alex and Jay. Go ahead and take it away. I'll recenter the conversation. You tell us why you support Trump. Massive W's for Alex and massive W's for Jay down below. Take it away, guys. Why are you MAGA?
Well, I guess he ran on cleaning up the wasteful spending in the government and cleaning up the border, and he's been working hard to do that.
Well, I think he's been working hard to do the opposite of that. Like you said, cleaning up wasteful spending. He signed the most expensive bill in American history into law. Big, beautiful bill. CBO projects it to cost $4.5 trillion. How's that for cleaning up wasteful spending?
Well, if you look at the big, beautiful bill, actually what it is tax cuts for us, so that doesn't really count as spending. And if you look at the other things, it's cost savings due to changes in the Medicaid program.
Okay, so yeah, it's still spending $4.5 trillion a net, even though they gutted $900 billion from Medicaid, which is expected to kick 10 million people off of the services alongside their new work requirements and increase premiums by 75%. So if they didn't gut $900 billion from Medicaid, then it just would have simply cost $5.4 trillion. And then you said, well, it's not actually spending because it's tax cuts. So even the Treasury calculates deficit-related expenditure and increase in debt via a reduction in government revenue when we cut taxes. So yeah, that is essentially debt spending. because that's just going to be the increase in the debt generated by the reduction in the government revenue onset by the tax cuts. And those tax cuts, by the way, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, are really only benefiting people making at or over $51,000 per year on average. Those making at or under $51,000 per year on average are projected to have less purchasing power because of the big, beautiful bill, because of its massive cuts to Medicaid, its massive cuts to free school student lunch programs, its cuts to intellectuals in the arts, its cuts to energy production, its cuts to food stamps, so on and so forth. Terrible bill.
So
Completely
you
wasteful.
said that cuts to Medicaid would reduce the average consumer spending?
No, purchasing power, because now they have to spend more. Like for like low income Americans that are on Medicaid, now like they're projected to have to spend an additional 75% on their premiums, which in consideration would reduce their overall purchasing power or the value
Who pays
of their money.
Medicaid premiums?
People on Medicaid?
People on Medicaid pay premiums?
Yeah, people on Medicaid pay premiums.
No, no. Medicaid is a government funded subsidy that pays for the health care of the recipient. You don't pay premiums for Medicaid.
Oh my God. Okay. All right.
Unless you count like the couple of states that charge a couple bucks of premium, but that's a state level.
Okay. All right. Well, so there's cost sharing under Medicaid for some individuals. So in a lot of states, like federal Medicaid will include some premiums relegated through cost sharing programs. And basically, because of like the $900 billion cut to Medicaid, now they're going to have to share more of that cost with the individuals on Medicaid by like increasing their burden, which in turn would increase their premiums. But yeah,
So which
there
states
is
actually
cost sharing
charge a
under
premium?
Medicaid. Not everybody on Medicaid has everything covered always. And yeah, I mean,
That's only a couple of states,
this
right?
is an agreed upon fact that the premiums of Medicaid are expected to go up by 75% because of the cuts from the big beautiful bill. If you would like a source from the Congressional Budget Office or the CPPP, just go on Google, type in Medicaid premiums projected to increase by 75% CBO or CBPP. I mean, you could find this from almost like any financial institution more anymore. This is a well-documented fact.
That's crazy. I've never heard of Medicaid premiums unless it was the handful of states that have required it due to their own restructuring of the Medicaid program. But I would say that a vast majority of states, they don't pay a Medicaid premium. You either qualify to get the coverage or you don't.
Okay, so it sounds like your argument now, which, like, by the way, like, we don't have like reason to believe because you haven't been able to supply evidence, is that maybe like not everybody is going to be on premium, is not going to have a premium to pay on Medicaid, and now like it's just going to be like a marginal amount of people that are going to have to pay more. But by the way, here's just like from the law, cost sharing. This is section 71120 under under the ACA, Medicaid, sorry, not the ACA, just Medicaid and federal law. It requires states to impose cost sharing on adults in the expansion population with incomes over 100% of the federal poverty level. Cost sharing amounts must be greater than $0 and cannot exceed $35. The legislation exempts a number of services from cost sharing requirements. However, many are still included
Right. That's
within
like a
those cost
copay,
sharing
right?
requirements. So yeah,
That's like a copay, isn't it?
like an example of like a cost sharing requirement is like a copay, and now we're
Right.
expecting like premiums, copays, and select services, to go up because we're defunding Medicaid by close to $900 billion
Well,
per
I
the
would
big
love to
beautiful
hear
bill.
where it says in the legislation that Medicaid is going to charge a premium from the federal level. I'd love to hear you point me in that direction because I've
So I
never
mean,
heard of a
so
premium being
I
paid
mean, I
to
already gave you my
Medicaid.
sources, but I'll happily give them to you again. You could go on Google. You could type in Medicaid premiums are expected to increase by 75% CBO or CBPP. This has been reported on and documented for the last 8 months.
Okay, well, I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the fact that the big beautiful bill is taking 10 million low-income Americans off of Medicaid altogether? I think that's a huge
Well,
loss.
that's over a period of 10 years, right?
Yes.
Have you heard of the what is it called? The FCCRA, I believe.
No.
Oh, so that was legislation passed back in 2020 under Trump that basically put a freeze on any de-enrollment, and that was discontinued during the Biden administration during, I believe, the March 2023.
Okay.
So once that it went into effect,
Yeah,
the
I'll happily
the
talk to you about that
the medic.
once you respond to my question by giving me your thoughts on Donald Trump potentially kicking 10 million low-income Americans off of Medicaid.
Oh, sorry. The Medicaid enrollments went up to about 98 million at the peak whenever they froze the disenrollments, and then when the Biden administration discontinued that, we lost about right around 20 million enrollees in a matter of 2 years. So when you say we lose
So
10
that
million enrollees over a
the
period of
freeze on
10
the
years, I
de-enrollments
don't
was
see that
for
big
the
of a problem.
pandemic. The freeze on the
Correct.
de-enrollments was because of the pandemic. So like regardless of how the Democrats or how Biden and Harris wanted to postpone ending that de-enrollment program, ultimately speaking, when the pandemic was over, they had to, right? But I don't understand why you're pivoting. I mean, I think I asked a pretty direct question. I'll ask it again now that I've responded to
Well,
it.
I was
Okay.
explaining the fact that we lost 20 million enrollees in a matter of 2 years, and you're fretting about 10 million over a period of 10 years. I'm not
But the
sure
difference between these
why
two
the urgency.
scenarios is like the reason why likely like what you're telling me is true. Like once again, still no evidence. I'm just going to take you for your word. Is because the de-enrollments were frozen during the pandemic, right? Because many individuals lost their job during the pandemic. Many individuals found themselves in incredibly undesirable circumstances because of the public health emergency and crisis. Many individuals died. Many individuals needed to go to the hospital, right? So they likely froze de-enrollment because of that, and they wanted anybody who was on it to stay on it until the public health emergency was over. Once the public health emergency was over, that policy stopped, right? Because COVID was no longer declared public health emergency, and then ultimately people were forced to de-roll, likely because either their income grew, they got a better job, they continued to work, and they no longer met eligibility requirements. So that actually wasn't an example of like the Biden-Harris administration slimming eligibility requirements. That wasn't an example of the Biden-Harris administration kicking people off of Medicaid, that had met the eligibility requirements. Unlike Trump, who is now defunding it by $900 billion per the CBO, increasing premiums by 75% for everybody else that is still a million people off just to further fund 10 tax cuts that disproportionately help the ultra wealthy. So now that we've got the Biden pivot away. I mean, literally, it's just something that happens so frequently on this live. We have a name for it. Go ahead and respond to the malice of the Trump administration in actively supporting kicking 10 million low-income Americans off of Medicaid just to help justify a cut to the program to make tax cuts for the ultra-wealthy significantly less expensive. How do you feel that because of the guy that you voted for, 10 million low-income Americans are now without health insurance?
Well, not now without health insurance. That doesn't go into effect, I think, until the end of next year. So I wouldn't say it's imminent, but when you
Okay,
look at, and it's pretty clear about what,
fair semantic catch. It's not even at the end of next year. That's the amount of individuals that are expected to lose it over the next 10. Semantic catch aside, because you're right on that point, go ahead and respond to the meat on the bone. 10 million people are or are already losing health insurance directly because of a decision made by President Trump. How could you ever support that?
well, the bill is very clear about who's actually being cut from the program, and that's all potential and it's all an estimate. So you say there will be cut from it. That's not necessarily true. These are all just estimates. And there's a narrow sliver of enrollees that are actually going to be subject to the work requirements, and they've got several options on how to stay on. So I don't really understand
Okay.
the
Well,
freak out mode,
if you're
especially when we've
saying
seen so many being cut before.
So if you're saying that we can't make educated guess about the future by using like a comparative analysis of estimates made by individuals that are deploying the scientific method and running these studies with objective means by simply evaluating policy, its efficacy and projected outcomes, then like how did you know that Donald Trump would be a good president? Right, like prior to the election, if you just would ignore like all potential projections of the outcomes of his policy, then you could have possibly known that he would have been the guy for the job. Or like, for instance, even today, right, in the last 8 months, every single macroeconomic variable inside of this country has gotten worse. And because you don't care about estimates of the future, how could you possibly justify that he's good for the economy? You wouldn't be able to do that unless you were to turn around and be like, oh, but Dean, like, look at his tariffs. They're going to be good in the long term for reasons X, Y, and Z. But all of a sudden, you're just attempting to give me an estimate. But I guess you don't really care about estimates. So all of a sudden, I just want to clarify, do you accept that Donald Trump is bad for the American economy because every macroeconomic variable in the last 8 months has gotten worse?
Well, I guess if you were to look at the actual variables, they've been slight, and the Fed
So
governor said
he's bad for
himself,
the
and
economy
inflation has
because things
been.
have gotten worse, right?
Oh, what do you call 0.2 of a percentage in inflation? You really call that worse after we've seen 20% in the past 4 years? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. The
I don't
inflation's
really
gotten
say that would.
worse, right?
Oh, by 0.2%. Yeah, you
Right.
win on
So
that one, I
so
guess.
every variable's gotten worse. So Donald Trump is bad for the economy because everything's gotten worse, right?
I guess if you would like to say that, I mean, 0.2% versus 20% increase in
We'll
inflation
see. Now you're
versus
pulling about
Biden,
Biden, and now even this is
and that's
incredibly
fine.
disingenuous. And I could go through the reasons why, but once again, you're just trying to pull the "but Biden" pivot card. God, it's so annoying. Biden didn't cause that
Well,
inflation. That
that's what we
inflation,
do. We
that
compare
that
we compare
inflation,
everything to the previous president.
that inflation was global. That inflation planet Earth. In fact, America had the fastest rebound from the inflation onset by the pandemic compared to every other country in the G7 because of his policy that, of course, didn't cause the inflation, but rather soothed it because the inflation of itself was caused by mass unemployment, supply chain issues, and economic stimulus that was supported in a bipartisan nature, not just in America, but like I already said, in every country on Earth. You're going to ignore that nuance because you just want to be able to make a claim that Biden bad. But now back to what I was saying, you actually have to accept now that Donald Trump is bad for the economy because every macroeconomic variable in the American economy has gotten worse in the last 8 months. And because you already told me that you don't care about estimates, you can't make an argument that he's going to be like good for the economy in the long term because guess what? That would be an estimate.
Well, I think it's glaringly obvious to the American people what these economic indicators have shown, and we've all seen pretty bad economic crises in the past couple of years. So to see a 0.2 tick up in inflation it's just not a big deal to us considering what we've been through. Is what I'm saying.
Would you say having like individual like consumer confidence in economic performance at a low since the crisis of 2007 through 2009 is a big deal? Would you say seeing the first dip in years in investment into American manufacturing after a boom under the Biden-Harris administration is a big deal? Would you say our GDP going down in the first quarter of this year and then in the second quarter, 52% of S&P 500 companies reporting lower profit margins than they did in Q1, where we only saw negative growth, is a big deal when no other country in the world reported GDP decline? Would you say those things are a big deal?
I thought the GDP growth had increased in the first quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're wrong. According to the Atlanta Federal Reserve, it went down by 0.3%.
I'll have to give you that one. I don't have the number in front of me.
I do. In front of me in my
Well,
head.
that's great.
So,
Well, that's cool.
yeah. So, would you say those things are a big deal? Do you care about investment into American manufacturing? Is that a big deal that it's gone down?
Oh, so you can spend a couple $1 trillion to boost manufacturing and then pat yourself on the back for it? Is that's cool, I guess, huh?
Oh, I forgot to inform you that I'm actually talking about real fixed private investment. So it accounts for inflation and it's specifically private, not government subsidies. Bad response. Try again.
Well, if you just pat yourself or Biden on the back for the spending bills that he passed during his term, don't you think that would automatically increase?
I just said private. It's private investment that I'm referring to here, not public through like expenditure
Oh, so you're
government
saying
subsidies.
Donald Trump hasn't secured any private
I'm,
investments?
I'm saying that private investment into American manufacturing has gone down even when we account for inflation in the last 3 quarters.
Okay, but has there not been any announcements of quite a bit of private investment into
Oh,
the
are
U.S.?
you going to say like the investment's going to go up in the future? Isn't that an estimation?
Right.
Isn't that a projection? I thought that you don't.
Well, no.
I
Well,
thought that you
no.
don't trust estimates. I thought that you don't trust projections. You were
Well,
telling
when
me
companies
when I was
announce it, when a
talking about.
company's announced,
You were telling me when I was talking about like healthcare and whatnot. Like, oh, this is just like something that might happen in the future, right? We don't know
well,
this
an
for sure.
announcement from a company is quite a bit different than a guess of what might happen in the future, don't you think?
Oh, I mean, aren't you just guessing that that the agreement's not going to change? Aren't you just guessing that they're not going to pull out? Aren't you like just guessing that these companies are going to pull through on their words? I mean, shit, like we have a track record to prove that they don't. Apple announced a $400 billion investment when Biden was inaugurated, never made it. Apple announced a $550 billion investment when Trump was inaugurated in 2017, never made it, right? Like obviously, right, the word of these companies doesn't really mean much, right? So it
Well,
seems like you're just going to be
when you're
giving me
talking
an
about
estimate
9 months.
predicated off of like the word of these companies, right? Which companies, by the way, who the hell knows? So on and so forth. All of a sudden, it seems to be the case that you're contradicting your own logic when you earlier suggested that I'm really bad for using estimates. And now you're using one
Well,
too.
Well, like I said, it's the companies that are announcing these investments, not necessarily a big guess or estimate, like you say. So there's quite a bit of different things.
Well, I mean, no, it
And
is. It
there's
is.
an
It
article
is.
on
It
the
is still yet.
whitehouse.gov, and
It
there's
is.
a
It is still
laundry
yet.
list of them.
It is still yet an estimate, right? Because you're
Sure.
estimating, right, that
Well, no, nobody's
the
estimating anything.
it
They've
is.
announced how
It
much they
is.
plan on spending.
It is. It is an
So,
estimate. I could explain to you why it's an estimate, right? You're estimating what they're like more likely than not going to spend now and in the future, predicated off of some word of mouth agreement from a company. When we already know that so many companies, not just in America but on the global stage, right, like see these things fail, right, and we see companies like not pull through, hold up their end of the agreement, so on and so forth.
so when you see trillions of
Right, and to
announced
use your
investments,
own
that's not the
and
same
to
thing.
use your own words against you, you can't really know that it's going to happen until it actually happens.
Well, that's true. We're what, 9 months in now, so
Right. So you just said that's true. So all of a sudden, right, like this estimate that you're providing me is completely meaningless in accordance with your own logic.
no, I'm not saying, I never said estimate. You're the one that
Right. And by
keeps
the way,
pushing
like
estimate, but
even like the
these are
announcements,
announced. These are
even like the
announced.
announcements of these deals, right? They're like they state like estimated projection of like investment.
Right.
Okay, self dunk.
They're still announcing their investment, though. I mean, let's be real.
You just agreed that they're announcing an estimated projection. I thought that you don't trust estimated
Well, I
projections.
guess they can estimate the amount of money that they're going to spend, but announcing
Right.
that they're going to spend X amount
Estimate.
of
So it's
dollars.
an estimate, right? If they're estimating,
That
then
was
it's
a
an estimate.
roundabout way to
Right.
get
Wait,
to
you
say
just
the
said it. You
estimate.
just
Good
said it
job, man.
yourself. If they're
Good job,
estimating,
King.
then it's an estimate.
Good job, man.
Thank you.
Way to take a windy little road to get to the word you wanted.
Yeah, that was a
Good
little bit
job,
of a
man.
winding little road, but I still got to my conclusion. All of a sudden, you're giving me an estimate when 10 minutes ago you said you don't trust those.
Loser. Come on now.
I mean, you lagged out there. All I heard was, come on now. Oh, you know what? This is kind of my fault because I'm the one that pivoted into a conversation about the economy to use your own logic against you about you not trusting estimates. But I asked you about one thing before we got onto this conversation that, like, I don't know, you never really responded to. It was about healthcare. Do you want to finish that conversation about healthcare? Like, can I just ask you, like, an entirely new question?
Oh yeah, we can go back to healthcare if you want.
Yeah, for sure. Why the hell do you support the Trump administration kicking 10 million low-income Americans off of Medicaid when we already have 40 through 60,000 people that die every year because of a lack of access to health insurance?
Well, like I said, if you look into the bill, it has a very narrow group of individuals that would possibly potentially be removed from the program, and those are able-bodied, working age
Yeah.
individuals that have no kids.
Hmm.
So
Well, actually,
when
that's
you
kids
think,
under 15, but I mean, yeah.
right,
I disagree with
so
the work requirement. I don't think that there should be work requirements on essential social programs that keep people alive, extend their life expectancy, and make society as a whole better off. You know, like for example, do you think that there should be a work requirement in order to like drive on public roadways or call the cops?
a work requirement to drive on public roadways. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, public roadways are funded by taxpayers, right?
Right.
So
But
do you
don't you
think that
think you would probably
like
be working in order to own a car to be able to drive on the highway?
I'm, I mean, I personally know, have known, and will know in the future many individuals that are not working that own a car and drive on roadways. I
Well,
mean,
that's
that's
a
not
quite a
too
bit of
unrealistic.
reach.
How's that a reach? I feel like everyone at one point in time has either been unemployed and driven on public roadways or known somebody that's unemployed that has driven on public roadways. Unemployed people drive.
Right, but for Medicaid, that's a subset of people who are able to work but are just not working.
Right. And like, would you support that same work requirement on driving on public roadways? People that are able to work but aren't working. Would you support that? Banning people that are able to work that aren't working from driving on public roadways, since public roadways are funded by the taxpayer.
I mean, that really makes no sense.
Exactly. It makes no
The
sense to put a work requirement on an essential social program. That's kind of my point. It makes no
No, it's an
sense at
essential
all.
program that you are trying to gain access to when you don't. There's other options for you to gain access to that.
I mean, that sentence was kind of gibberish.
I mean,
Rephrase.
that's just a reach to try to apply a work requirement to roads,
It's
of
not a
course.
reach at all. Just
Because
like Medicaid, public roadways are funded for by the taxpayer. What's the difference?
okay, by that
Tell
same
me,
logic, you can
tell me,
say, well,
logically
by
speaking,
that same
tell me,
logic, you can
logically
say, oh,
speaking, what is the difference
illegal
between
immigrants can't
placing,
use our roads.
tell me, logically speaking, what is the difference between placing a work requirement on something like Medicaid or like placing a work requirement on something like public roadways, placing a work requirement on calling like firefighters, or placing a work requirement on calling the cops?
Well, on the outset, it's absolutely impossible to enforce that. So that's how are you supposed to enforce that?
The same way that you enforce people driving, sorry,
You put a
speeding,
little checkpoint
or
right on
like
the on
driving with
ramps to all the
expired tags.
highways, or what?
You know, like maybe all of a sudden, you have to like go on like to dmv.gov and update, like every time you're employed or not employed, or maybe we launch the new government agency of enforcing our laws on public roadways, and they
Maybe if
like
you put like
actively
little
like keep
checkpoints on
track
the
of
on
like
ramps of
of
every
like
highway,
who's
that would be
employed and
effective.
who's unemployed. I actually think
Yeah,
that there
that would
could
be
be a
effective.
realistic way to enforce it, just like we enforce other driving laws and ensure that people that are on public roadways aren't driving on expired tags. All right. So, given that there would be right a feasible way to enforce it, would you support banning people or restricting them, legally speaking, from driving on public roadways, given that they're able to work and they're not working?
No.
Okay, why not? I mean, I agree with you, but I'm going to use this to make a counter argument. Like, what are like the specific reasons why you wouldn't support a work requirement on driving on public roadways? Would we agree maybe that reason is because driving on public roadways is kind of like an essential?
Well, other than the fact that it's absolutely not enforceable, regardless of some roundabout way that you could possibly try,
So
it's just
I
not
said like if
enforceable.
there was like a
And it has
feasibly
zero
realistic
to
way of
do,
I
it
said
has
even if
zero to do with
listen, I said if there was a
healthcare or
feasibly
anything. So
realistic way of enforcing it, then would you support it? And you said no. So your response there can't be because it's not realistic to enforce, given
well,
the if
just
then
because you
conditional was if it
consider
was feasible
roadways
and realistic
being
to enforce.
just because you consider roadways being essential to travel it and trying to equate that to healthcare, being on a publicly funded healthcare program, and yeah, it just doesn't really match up.
Well, you're not answering my question. You're just saying that it doesn't match up without answering my question. That question being, can you articulate the clear reasons why you wouldn't support a work requirement on driving on public roadways? Can we agree it's because allowing like anybody and everybody to drive on public roadways is kind of like an essential for them and all like makes society as a whole better off?
Well, certainly, I mean, it's an essential, I guess, is what you would call it, but you can't equate that to the Medicaid program. It's
Oh,
not
actually, I
essential to
can
everybody.
because now you've
No.
agreed. Now that you've agreed that driving on public roadways is an essential because of how much it can benefit the quality of the life of the people that do drive on the public roadways. Well, I mean, shit. Do I really need to sit down and give an argument for how much free healthcare can benefit the quality of life of a average low income American?
But Medicaid's not available to every single American, so it doesn't equate to the same thing as the roadways,
Oh, so you're saying it would equate to
right?
roadways if we did make Medicaid available to every American. So now all of a sudden you support universal health care for the same reasons you support universal access to public roadways. Self
Oh, I
dunk,
didn't say that.
sir.
It's not available to everybody, and it shouldn't be available to everybody,
Oh, wait. How could
considering
you
it's a free
possibly
service.
argue? How could you possibly argue that it shouldn't be available to everybody and we shouldn't have universal health care, given the fact that you just said that driving on public roadways would be identical, right, to universal health care? And because Medicaid is not universal health care, right, I don't have an
Well, you said
argument.
that. I didn't say that.
You did.
You're
You
you're
did.
equating
You
two
said that you
you're
can't
equating
equate.
two
You said that you can't
astronomically
equate.
different
Yes.
things.
No. This isn't an
Two
equivocation at all.
astronomically different things.
Okay, if this is an equivocation, then you're the one that made it because you're the one that told me that I cannot compare Medicaid to driving on public roadways because Medicaid isn't available to everybody. The implication there is that if Medicaid was available to everybody, then you would be able to equivocate these two things. And if you can't track like the very simple logic to understand how your own statement made that implication, well then I just simply revisiting the things that you say before you say them, and
Well,
just
there's
to
so
think
many
a little bit
different
more
things.
before you
There's so many
speak.
reasons why you can't equivocate it because paving a road, it has an X amount of dollars, and it's not a continuous payment over years, over years, over
It
years.
is.
So you build one road,
It
and
is.
it's there.
No,
So it
not
doesn't
true.
have an annual cost
It
other than
does.
slight repairs or anything. So
Maintenance. Maintenance.
your
Maintenance.
comparison's absurd on its
No,
face.
no, no.
Anyway,
What
but
you just said
I'm
is wrong.
entertaining
What you just said
you.
is wrong. It's not build a road then leave it. Go talk to any geotechnical engineer, and they'll tell you that like factored into the cost of like operating.
I mean,
public
you're
roadways is
really trying
maintenance of
hard to
repair.
make these make sense, and I mean,
Wait, I'm just
it
telling you
just
that you're
doesn't.
wrong.
It just doesn't make sense.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that like you just don't know the facts, but it's a fact that
Well, I'm sorry
like
that
operating public
reasonable
roadways isn't a
guardrails
one-time
on a
cost.
publicly funded program is not
Wait,
crazy.
I don't understand. I don't understand why you're not responding to what I just said. You just tried to argue that like the cost of public roadways is a one-time thing. They build it and they leave it alone. No, that's not
Well,
true.
I said other than ongoing maintenance.
Okay, right.
It's just boring.
And why do they have
It's
to
just
do
boring
ongoing
to try and
maintenance?
equate.
Why do they have to do the ongoing
It's
maintenance?
so boring.
Why do they have to do the ongoing maintenance?
So it doesn't fail.
But like that's not what I'm asking you. And why would it fail? What would make it fail? Would it possibly be the cars driving on it?
Right, but
So
the way you're trying to
would you
equate
argue
it,
that
the way
like a
you're trying to
road
equate it
that
is
has
that
like
we would
less
have to
cars?
rebuild that road.
Would you argue?
You're trying to-
Could you agree that like less cars driving on a public roadway would require less maintenance, therefore less expenditure than more cars driving on a public roadway, and that with more cars that drive on a public roadway, you have to spend more on said maintenance?
For your equivocation to make sense, we would have to rebuild
not
that road
responding to what
every
I'm
single
saying.
year for that to make even remote sense.
Okay, actually not at all.
Would
Can you respond to
agree
what I
that
said?
to rebuild the road every single year?
Sir, I'm muting you because you're not answering my question. I'll go ahead and repeat it one last time for you. Can you agree that the maintenance cost of a public roadway only increases the more cars that you have drive on it? Because when you have more cars driving on a public roadway, they do more damage to the road.
Right, it would.
Boom.
But in order for you to make that an equal equivocation, basically my argument would be you'd have to rebuild the road every single year.
Okay. I mean,
Because with
I
Medicaid,
don't see it from my,
you're getting the same cost every single year.
I don't see it from my perspective. But like, if you
Okay,
just
well, of
want
course you
another,
don't.
if you want to,
You tried really hard to make it equal.
if you
tried
want,
really hard.
well, I mean, I could just give you like another example of a social safety net that'll seemingly like answer to your demands here. Another example of a social safety net that'll answer to your demands here would be like the police force, right? Because like every time you call the cops to like show up to your house to report vandalism, break-in, crime, so on and so forth, right? Like there's money being spent on that call, right? Every single use, just like the hospital, which I think was like your big issue. So would you therefore say, because this is a better example to align with your demands, that you would support having a work requirement on accessing, like calling the police force?
Well, you don't really have any options to call anyone else other than the police force.
Yeah,
So
just like
trying
if
to
you
equate
fucking,
that to medical care,
just like if you
you have
break your arm, you
options
don't have
for
any
different
other
medical
options
care.
to show up to anywhere else besides the goddamn hospital.
Right, but you have options on who's going to pay for that, don't you?
Well, I mean, if you're a low-income American,
What if you make
and it's
what
not
if you
an
make $200,000 a year? Are you
if you're a low-income American and it's not an immediate emergency need, so you can't go to the emergency room and get covered under EMTALA, actually, no, you don't have an option to pay for that unless you're being offered like state-funded medical health insurance, which is why we have it, right?
right? So people have other options in order to fund their health care.
So what are the other options for a low-income American outside of Medicaid?
Well, if you're an able-bodied individual between the ages of 18 and 65, you can work,
Okay.
or you can
The other
volunteer.
option is work.
Or you can volunteer.
Okay. Well, then, so you said that we shouldn't have a work requirement on like accessing the police force because there's like no other options. Well, guess what? The other option is going to work and qualifying for the criteria that'd be necessary to meet in order to gain access to the police force. The same way you said another option for a low-income American that breaks their arm would be going to work to gain access to like their works health insurance.
No one on this earth even argues the fact that essential public services have anything to do with gaining government-funded health care. What a joke, dude.
Wait, you
Come
don't
on.
think that
Come on.
healthcare is essential?
Well, I don't have anyone paying for my health care.
Wait, so
It's not essential for the government to pay for my health care.
Can I just get a yes or no? Is healthcare essential? Yes or no?
Of course, but who
Boom!
pays it is
Dude,
a different story.
you can't make this shit up. Okay, so your new argument is, hey, listen, if the reason why I think we shouldn't have a work requirement on calling the cops is because the cops are essential, which would imply that if Medicaid healthcare was essential for low-income Americans, then you would support not having a work requirement on it either. And then you just agreed that healthcare is essential. Dude, I'm sorry.
Healthcare is essential, but who pays
so
for
if
it
healthcare is
is
essential,
a different thing.
if healthcare is essential, then Medicaid is essential for like low-income Americans.
What about middle income Americans? Is it essential for them too?
We could have that conversation once we can agree for low income Americans.
Being able to go to the doctor is essential. Having the government pay for my visit to the doctor is something that can be discussed about being essential or not.
Yeah, we could have that conversation next, right? Like, from my perspective, I do support universal health care. But obviously, if I tell you that and I respond to your question by affirming that it is essential, well, then all of a sudden you're going to try to shift it into a conversation about universal health care compared to a conversation about not supporting work requirements on Medicaid and the system that already exists due to the fact that you agreed it's essential and you agreed that essential social safety nets shouldn't have work requirements on them.
Well, I think we can agree that having reasonable guardrails on a program that the government funds is not too unheard of.
Okay. Well, I mean, if now the argument is just reasonable guardrails on a program that the government funds, well, it would be an unreasonable guardrail due to the fact that Medicaid would be essential for any and all low-income Americans, even if they're not working, the same way access to the police force would be essential to any and all American, regardless if they're working. Boom.
All right, I guess you can you can equivocate it to 1,000 different things, but it still doesn't make sense in the public's eyes.
Well, an equivocation would be like a comparison to two things that can't be compared, logically speaking, within one relevant sense. Can you
Right,
give me
and
the,
your comparisons were
can you,
not
can
logic
you,
at
can you,
all.
can you give me the distinction
Comparing a
there?
road to healthcare
So, I mean,
is not logic.
so all that you're doing right now, my friend, is you're just saying that these two things can't be compared without giving your reasons why. So could you please give me the symmetry breaker between supporting a work requirement on calling the cops and supporting a work requirement on accessing Medicaid as a low-income American? Articulate the clear reasons that make these two things drastically different, that justifies a work requirement on Medicaid, but doesn't justify a work requirement on calling the cops. Make it clear.
I think
Stop
I've already said it
whining.
before. I think I already said it before. How are you going to enforce it? When someone calls for an emergency to get the police there, are you going to ask them if they're going to work? What are you going to do?
Okay, so
The
now it's like
the
now,
enforcement problem's going to come up quite a bit
yes.
by your logic.
So I'll just give you like a quick example of how we could enforce it, which by the way is just another pivot. We have individuals like register to like be able to call the cops, very similar to how you have to register to be able to vote, or like register to like qualify for Medicare, right?
So that seems more absurd than asking people to work to
Right,
gain
right,
free
right,
healthcare.
right. No, of
That
course.
sounds a little bit more absurd, I
I
think.
agree that that's absurd, right? But still, yet it is a materially realistic way of like readily available and easy enforcement of like an assurance that those that would be calling the cops are working, right? You didn't you like
Easy
you just
enforcement.
you just asked me for like a realistic way to enforce this work requirement on calling the cops. I agree this realistic way to do it is fucking crazy and we never should in a billion years, but still yet it's a realistic way to do it regardless of its merits. It could be done, right? Meaning that there is realistic ways to enforce that. So now that we've agreed there's realistic ways to enforce like a work requirement on calling the cops, what would the difference be between imposing a work requirement on calling the cops and imposing a work requirement on accessing Medicaid, given the fact that you've now agreed they're both essential and we know they're both publicly funded social safety nets by the taxpayer?
Just because you say it's easily done is not necessarily true. How easy would it be to have a national sign up to be able to call the cops? I mean, that's another big reach, man.
Okay,
It's a
right.
big reach.
Well, see, every single time I ask you the question of what would the difference be if you were to impose a work requirement on one thing but not the other, right? Like you always just like pivot to something else, right? And now you're talking about like how easy would it be to enforce this for the cops? Like I mean, listen, man, if we want to go through the pragmatics of how we could actually do this, right? We could have that conversation with one another, but I feel like you're just using that as a pivot away from the meat on the bone here, which is just a conceptual conversation about a comparison of the two ideals. So how about this? Let me frame it this way. If there was an easy way to enforce a work requirement on accessing the police, then would you support a work requirement on accessing the police? That's a very simple and
No,
clear question. Exactly.
no.
So how easy or hard it would be to enforce this is completely irrelevant to if you would support it or not. So let's stop fucking talking about that completely irrelevant thing. What is the difference between imposing a work requirement on calling the cops and imposing a work requirement on accessing Medicaid that in your mind justifies it for Medicaid, but does not justify it for calling the cops?
In both of your examples, it between roadways and calling the cops, you don't have an option to not travel on certain roadways. If you're going to travel the country, you're going to travel on a roadway. If you're going to call 911, you're calling the only place you can call. To try to equate that to healthcare when there's many options of healthcare, and if you qualify for that program, you qualify, and if you don't, you don't.
Okay.
So
So
having
what are
reasonable
the
rules to be able to
so
qualify for
for
that program
so now you're
is
just
just
saying
not
that there's
unheard of. Like I
so
said,
you're just saying that there's no other realistic way to access like this necessary service. So what are the other realistic ways for like low income Americans that can work that aren't working to access, right, the necessary service of healthcare?
to begin to work and gain access to or
Okay. All right.
meet the
So
requirements
then, so then you're so then you're saying
become part of the program.
the other thing, the other option for a low-income American that can work that isn't working in order to access healthcare would be to work so then they could qualify for Medicaid, right?
Are you saying there's not more than one option on
Well,
the big
there,
beautiful bill
well,
to be able to
therefore,
access that program?
listen. Therefore, okay, if the other option for low-income Americans to access healthcare, if they can work but aren't working, would be to work so then they can qualify for Medicaid. Well, then theoretically, if we imposed a work requirement on calling the cops, there would be another option. So your argument is invalid because according to your logic, the other option for like Americans that can work that aren't working that don't qualify to have the means available to call the police would be to go get a job and qualify to call the police, right?
No, when I talk about options, I'm talking about when you call the 911, you call the police. There's no other police to call. There's
Exactly.
no other road to
Exactly.
dry on.
Okay, exactly. Just like if you're a low-income American that's able to work, that can't work, there's no other fucking like body to rely on to access healthcare outside of Medicaid through the federal government.
Oh, so Medicaid's the only body to rely on for health insurance? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for low-income Americans that can work that aren't working, where the hell else are they supposed to go?
Well, you can volunteer. There's several options to be able to qualify for that option. There's
Exactly.
other
And now
options.
it's about like other options to qualify, right? Another option to qualify for being
Right,
able to
you're
call the
conflating the
cops
two.
if
I'm
calling
talking
the
about
cops had a
options
work
to
requirement
qualify.
on it, right? Would be to go out and work. So therefore, dude, how can you not see that? Listen. Okay. Is like everybody else that is like in here, are you guys like understanding what I'm saying, right? Because like I feel like I'm making it clear. This guy is saying that the difference between the imposition of a work requirement on Medicaid and the imposition of a work requirement on calling the police is that, well, if we did impose a work requirement on calling the police, then we would leave those that don't meet the work requirement with no other option, right? Right? And then my response is the same way we would be leaving like low income Americans that can work that aren't working with no other option to access health insurance. Okay. And then the guest responds to that by saying, well, there is another option for the low income Americans that can work that aren't working to access health insurance. And that would be for them to turn around and start working so they could qualify for health insurance. Okay. The same way, right? If there's a work requirement on calling the cops, you could turn around and work to meet the qualifications to be able to call the cops. But when I told him that, his immediate response was, that's not what I mean by other options. What I mean by other options isn't other ways you could qualify to access these benefits, but literally just other ways you could access the benefits without changing anything material like your employment status. All right. Well, is there like any other way you could access the benefit of health insurance as a low-income American that can work that isn't working without any material change in your employment, volunteering, so on and so forth?
Let me say this a little bit slower.
You're just not
So
answering the
when you
question.
go to
This
drive
is
on a
hard.
road,
This is hard.
okay.
This is
Well, I mean,
hard.
I know it's hard for you to understand, Dean. I
You're not
know,
answering
but
my question here.
well, you
No, I
obviously
want an
didn't
answer to my
understand what I
question.
said.
I want an answer to my question right now.
You have several options in order to get care, and it doesn't
What
have
are
to be Medicaid.
so
Are
what are
there
the
not
other
free
options?
clinics all
What
over? Are there not
what
free clinics? Are there not churches? Are there like nonprofits that would offer several different types of healthcare that people that couldn't qualify for Medicaid to get? Those are
well,
several different options.
yeah, I don't I don't
When I
I don't
mentioned
I don't think that
roads and
these
police, I
options
meant
I don't think
you
that
don't
these
have any
options are readily
options
available.
on you don't have an alternate police department that you can call.
Hey,
You don't
I'm
have an
sorry.
alternate road
I
that you
don't
can
think that
travel
these other
on.
options are readily available. No, this is like saying, couldn't you just like ask a church to like carpool you to
Well, you're trying really,
carpool you to
really
wherever you need to
hard.
go,
You're
right?
trying to really,
But
really
like
hard to
obviously,
conflate these other
yeah,
services
could you please
to
give me
this.
like
So
another
I have to try
option?
really, really
Could
hard
you please
in
give me
order
another
to
option outside of
show
Medicaid
the
that would be like readily available to the 55 million low income Americans? Could you
right.
give me an option?
Plenty of free clinics,
Okay, give me an example.
nonprofits,
Give me an example of
churches.
one of these free clinics. Give me an example.
There's churches that offer flu shots and I'm sure
dude,
checkups, and
dude,
I've
exactly.
seen
Fucking
several.
flu
There,
shots. Nice.
so you're
I
telling me
don't think a flu
there's
shot's
no
gonna
such
help
thing.
you if you're having
You're
heart
telling me there's no such
palpitations.
thing as a nonprofit free clinic. You tell me there's no such thing in the
I
United States of
I'm
America.
absolutely telling you that there's no such thing as readily available free health insurance for low-income Americans that can work that aren't
I
working
didn't say
outside of
readily available
Medicaid.
free health insurance, but
Exactly. So then
there
you're
are
talking
several.
about something else. Like even like these free fucking
You said health
clinics.
insurance.
Listen, I'm not personally.
There's readily available
I'm not
health insurance all
personally.
over the place.
I'm not personally right. Familiar with any free clinic. I've never seen a free clinic before. But what I will say is that a free clinic seems to be more like urgent care, right? There's a big difference between urgent care and going to the hospital. The most urgent care can do is like maybe an EKG on your heart. Like seriously, they
Oh, so
can't
now we're
stitch
getting
you.
into semantics on what the clinic can provide, what services the clinic can provide.
Actually, yes, right? Because
Since I've
I
met the
myself,
requirement of what you
no,
said,
it's not meeting the.
now we've got
It's
to take it a
not.
step further
It's
and
not meeting the
judge them
requirement.
on the services they provide.
It's not meeting the requirement because of the services that they provide. Like I myself, right, have
Oh,
like
okay. So we just move the goalpost
it's not
until
moving.
it doesn't
It's
meet the
not. It's not
requirements
moving the
for
goalposts.
Dean.
It's not moving the goalposts if it's not like a readily available alternative to begin with because they don't provide similar services. Not at all.
Well, when you don't qualify for a certain program, you've got to find the next best readily available program, right?
So now you're agreeing that they're not the same thing in the slightest, and there is no other option. Got it, right?
No, I'm just saying you can
Thank
find the
you.
next best option.
Thank you. Well, guess what? There is no best. There is no next best option for going to the hospital and having health insurance cover your bill if you break your arm. Okay, if like seriously,
So if one goes to the hospital and they're
want to task you
uninsured,
with
is it not
something.
paid for?
I want to task you with something here. If it's not emergency, no, they don't. Right?
Oh,
So,
really? So there's no such thing as emergency Medicaid then?
God, I just said if it's not emergency, then you're like, oh, really? But what if it's emergency? Holy
Oh, so
fuck!
you can't go into the ER right now, get care, and it'd be covered,
Hey, is it
even
ER?
though
Hey, what does
even
ER
though it's
stand
not
for?
classified
Hey,
as an emergency.
hey, what does ER stand for?
If I cut my finger and go into the emergency room, I'm still going to get
I
care.
want to ask you a question. What does ER stand for?
Emergency room. Just because the name of the building doesn't
Thank
match
you. Thank you.
the height of the injury
Oh.
doesn't mean it doesn't count.
No, if it's not an emergency, they'll just refer you to a primary physician.
No, if I cut my finger and I'm bleeding and I go into the emergency room, they'll fix it. And
They'll
it'll
fu-
be paid for by Medicaid.
Okay, if you cut your finger and it's bleeding, they'll give you a fucking band-aid and they'll turn you around, right? Just like a CVS.
Okay, so I
probably
got you
would,
then. So that's the
right?
same
But
the same coverage then if
it
you're on
is
Medicaid. That's the same
right.
coverage. Because I can go into the emergency room for every single thing I
And
need.
actually, like I don't even know if they'll do that. Actually, no. If it doesn't qualify as emergency services, then you'll get billed.
You
Right?
see how hard I had to reach to try to make it make
if you go
sense,
to
kind
the
of like
ER,
you,
if
kind of like what you were doing.
if you go to the ER with something that doesn't qualify as an emergency, right? Then it's not covered by Medicaid under EMTALA.
Well, I think they figure out that after the fact rather than while you're there.
Well, I mean, I think that anybody with a brain would be able to understand that a paper cut's a non-emergency.
Oh, so you would turn someone away at the hospital if they were bleeding out of their finger?
Well, the thing is they either tell you like this is what it's going to cost you, and then you get to decide if you want to leave, or they'll do it and then they'll bill you.
Okay. Well, that conversation kind of got off the rails, buddy.
Yeah, got off the rails because you're fucking stupid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like you're trying to act as if, right?
I'm stupid, but you're the one.
Millions
You're the
of
one
low-income
proposing
Americans.
work requirements to travel on the road. Good job, buddy.
You're acting as if, right? Like 40,000 through 60,000 low-income Americans die per year because, because of a lack of access to health insurance because they get a fucking paper cut on their finger. No, like the big issue, right, with like why I consider Medicaid to be an essential social service, right? That like doesn't have like any like relevant alternatives for like covering that same level of care. Like free clinics, which by the way, I've never personally seen one, is because like people are dying from things that are like easy to treat that could be prevented, but they're not prevented and are allowed to develop because they don't have healthcare, therefore they can't go to the hospital, right? We're like talking about like early stage melanoma here, right? We're talking about like early stage pancreatic cancer that goes unseen.
So you're
because they
saying
can't get
someone
their
with
annual
cancer
physical.
that is low income would not qualify for Medicaid?
Oh, well, actually, it'd be Medicare in that circumstance because it's a disability. But yeah, no, sure. There's actually particular types of cancer that don't qualify you as unable to work in accordance with the Social Security handbook.
Right.
right? Which means that they
So
wouldn't
someone with a
qualify for
disability
Medicare.
isn't required for the work requirements for Medicaid.
Right, but what I just told you is that it doesn't classify as a disability under the Social Security Handbook,
What doesn't?
like many forms of cancer.
Oh, it doesn't qualify as a disability, but it is like a terminal illness, right?
It's terminal illness. I mean, so like the language for
So you're telling me
the
cancer
the
wouldn't
the
qualify you
language
for
the language
Medicaid,
for
Medicare, anything like that?
so in order to qualify for like Medicare under disability is to like meet the classifications of the Social Security Handbook, and like specifically inside of the Social Security Handbook they determine like what medical ailments can allow you to qualify for like disability or not, predicated on if you can still work, right? Like for instance, I'll give you an example. I have a friend
So you're
right
saying
now.
people can work
I'll give
with
you
high stage cancer?
I'll give you an example right now. I have a friend. His name is Adam, right? And Adam right now is dying from cancer. If you've watched my stream for like a while, right, you're familiar with Adam because I've had to do right alongside like my friends Parker and Matt like multiple fundraisers for Adam because he does not meet the Social Security's definition, the Social Security Handbook's definition of disabled, even though he's like literally dying of cancer as we speak, right? So no, quite frankly, the system's fucked. There is many examples of like preventable illnesses, right, such as many forms of cancer that could be nipped in the bud and taken care of because of access to preventative care by like allowing low-income Americans, regardless if they're working or not, access to Medicaid to go to an annual physical and get checked up on when they need it, right? That are then allowed to develop and put them in a situation where their life expectancy is significantly reduced. And that's why I think that systems like Medicaid, right, are so necessary. And I mean, just like for everybody watching, just think about how like truly dystopian this conversation is. All right. Like, I'm just literally trying to convince this idiot, right, that maybe, right, we shouldn't have defunded Medicaid by $900 billion and we should keep those 10 million low income Americans having their access to it because it'll keep them alive. It will extend their lifespan, as well as it will keep more people out of the emergency room by preventing the emergency before it even starts, which saves our government money and it reduces wait times inside of the ER. But then no, he's like, no, we really need to cut Medicaid by $900 billion. We really need to give the big middle finger to low-income Americans because I just really need the top 1% to get 3% back per year in taxes because I suck on the boot all day long, right? The
Well, I don't
fact of
think
the
I said
matter
any of
is,
that.
insofar in our conversation, you have not been able to effectively demonstrate any relevant distinction between the necessity of a program such as calling the police and the necessity of a program such as accessing healthcare as Medicaid, right? And in all of your attempts to demonstrate any relevant alternative to accessing a hospital through Medicaid for a low-income American that can work that's not able to, you've been unsuccessful, and you've just kind of been throwing, right, examples out there of like free fucking, let's see here, like I don't know, like free
Like
urgent care.
nonprofit health
Even though
clinics.
I've never
Come on.
seen a nonprofit health clinic exist ever. And like a nonprofit health clinic, if it did exist, sure, they might be able to give you a flu shot, but they're not going to be able to give you an annual physical and like check up on like relevant like dispositions towards preventable illnesses. They'll just be able to maybe get your blood pressure, take your height, and do an EKG at the most.
So you do agree that there are nonprofit clinics out there
I mean, I wouldn't doubt that nonprofit
that would
urgent care
extend free
exists.
services
Somebody
to low
that
income
that exists
individuals.
that exists somewhere in the country. I've never personally seen one though, but like the services offered are incredibly limited, and I know this because I've gone to urgent care with like so many things that have happened to me, right? And every single time I go to urgent care with something that happens to me, their immediate response is, "You got to go to the hospital because there's nothing we could do." Like I'm telling you, if it extends beyond taking your height, getting your blood pressure, or putting a band-aid on a wound, there's nothing they could do.
Sure, but I believe that the Medicaid program, the requirements that are in place, do cover a vast majority of the low income Americans that need it.
Oh my God.
and that have no other options.
Listen.
But if you're
Oh,
if you're an able-bodied person with no kids,
listen, they do cover vast majority of low-income Americans that need it because guess what? There's like 60 million low-income Americans that need it. So therefore, when we take it away, right, from 10 million low-income Americans, technically a vast majority are still covered. Okay, right? Even though a vast majority are still covered, I think that 10 million people losing access to Medicaid is a whole hell of a lot. And if now you're trying to convince me that 10 million people isn't a lot, well, guess what? You voted for a goddamn 34 count felon, adjudicated rapist, fascist, because you thought that the 2 million undocumented immigrants that came into this country under Biden were a lot. So don't come talking to me about telling us
Here
how
comes the rapist
invaluable,
comment.
how invaluable the lives of 10 million low-income Americans are. You absolute POS.
Well, it wasn't valuable a couple years ago when 20 million dropped off. So
I thought that I already explained that to you.
it's kind of hard to
Listen,
scream about
you're
that.
not up here to seek truth. You're not up here to be productive. I already explained that one to you, old man. I'll go ahead and explain it to you again since I understand you forgot, right? The fact of the matter is, right, that's because the extension to postpone people no longer qualifying for Medicaid, during the pandemic was ended because the pandemic was over. And a lot of people were therefore ineligible for Medicaid after that because they no longer met the maximum income eligibility. Right? From like 2020 until 2023.
Oh, the income
right?
threshold changed?
No, the income
I don't
threshold
recall
didn't
that.
change. The individual income of the individuals on it changed from 2020 when they signed the law into effect that prevented individuals from losing service until 2023 when they repealed it after the pandemic was over, right? At that point when they repealed it, there was millions of people on Medicare, right, that had an income above the minimum income because they either got a better job or started to work more from 2020 until 2023. So then of course
Okay,
they
so then we
naturally
agree
no
then
longer
because
qualified for
so when
services.
the 10 million individuals over 10 years no longer qualify for the rules that require them to be on the Medicaid program, then you have no problem because they no longer qualify for the program. So
Well,
why are
one
we arguing about that?
Well, one is changing the rules and reducing the amount of people that do qualify via the imposition of an unfair work requirement on a necessary social service net. And the other isn't changing the rules and is just simply lifting a bar that prevented individuals from disqualifying for it, even if they no longer met the eligibility requirements that existed before. I'm happy that
So
I
the
could
rules
educate you.
for Medicaid hasn't changed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, from like 2020 until 2023, the like
Right.
requirement rules for
So to be on the
Medicaid didn't
Medicaid program,
change.
the rules haven't the requirements haven't changed
From
at
2020
all over
until
the years.
2023, there was no like federal change in like the rules of requirement that
No,
like
I'm talking
forced me
about
to
in
lay people
history.
off.
They've always been the same in history. There's never been updates to
Okay, well,
identify
I don't know. I don't
ways
understand.
where it
So
could
now
be
you're
more
trying to shift
efficient.
the goalposts further because we're talking about
I'm
2020
not shifting the
until
goalpost. I'm not.
2023. Yes,
I'm just trying to figure
yes.
out the outrage.
You're shifting the goalposts, right? The reason you're shifting the goalposts is because you just try to compare the 10 million people losing service under Trump to apparently the 20 million people, which, by the way, you haven't been able to give me a source on, that apparently, according to you, lost service under Biden, when in all reality, that's just because they lifted the bar preventing individuals from losing access to service, even if they no longer met eligibility requirements, right? Can you respond to that
Source is
without shifting the
CMS.
goalposts?
The source is CMS. They're looking at the total numbers of enrollees over the years. It's right there. I'm just trying to figure out the outrage. If 20 million people can
Oh my
drop
God.
off, nobody
Dude,
cared.
can you
But
respond to,
10 million,
dude,
10 million people over
hey,
10
hey,
years is a
hey,
big deal.
hey, I just explained this to you. What did I just say? I want you to repeat the words that just came out of my mouth.
If every action caused people to drop off the program, why were you
You're
not outraged by the Biden?
I literally want you to repeat the last words that came out of my mouth. Do it.
I wasn't listening.
Of course you weren't listening. Why weren't you listening? Is it maybe because you're not here for productive dialogue and you're just here to
Oh,
talk shit?
sure. No, I'm here to
Okay.
talk
So,
productive.
so if you're here for productive dialogue, then why didn't you listen to this
I'm
one
just
thing
trying to
that I
figure
repeated five
out.
times?
We have the
No, no, no,
same
no,
thing
no, no, no.
happening.
Listen.
The
If you're
first thing
here, no,
happened
no, no.
way
Listen.
worse.
If you're here for productive dialogue, why didn't you listen to me the first 5 times?
Well, I've been listening to you this whole time.
Okay, but you just told me you weren't listening. So which one is it?
Well, this last time.
Oh, but you were listening the first 4 times I repeated it. So go ahead and tell me what I said, because like I said, I repeated it for the fifth time.
Oh, well, you just keep trying to explain why it's not the same, and it's
Okay.
exactly
So
the
so
same.
so what was my explanation insofar as why it's not the same?
Because you're saying that they removed the freeze and they no longer qualify to the not the work requirements, the income requirements, and you give a roundabout explanation for it.
So what
But
was
what
this?
I'm not
So
saying
so what was my
I'm not
quote
arguing
unquote
why.
roundabout explanation?
Well, what I'm trying to get directly to the point of
No, no,
is
no, 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 no.
a
I'm being
certain
serious.
action
No,
was
no, 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 no.
required to drop people from the program.
I'm actually being
A
serious.
certain action had to
You're
happen
not
for these
answering my
people to
question.
drop off the
I'm
program.
actually being serious. What was my explanation insofar as why it's different? I'm like being dead ass. Like, what was my explanation insofar as why it is different that I repeated 5 times? Okay? Like, literally, what was
I
my
just told you.
explanation? No, you didn't.
I just told you.
You just said roundabout explanation. You labeled it a
No.
roundabout, but you didn't explain what it actually was. I want you to explain what it actually was.
I told you that you said that they removed the freeze that that caused people that were possibly outside of the qualification range of the Medicaid program, which then caused them to drop off the program,
Okay, I'll re-explain it for the
right?
6th and final time. I want you to listen incredibly close this time, okay? So the reason these two things are different, right, is because when people lost Medicaid under the Biden-Harris administration, they weren't doing so because the Biden-Harris administration changed and reduced the eligibility requirements to include less low-income Americans, right? Like Trump is today, which I think is incredibly evil and incredibly regressive. The reason why individuals lost Medicaid is because they just no longer qualify for it. I mean, if you want to consider that into like losing Medicaid, well, then people lose Medicaid every single day in this country, right? Because guess what? They no longer, right, make below the certain threshold legislated on by their state nor the federal government, as they're now making more, as they have gotten a job that pays them more, or they're working more hours.
All I'm trying to say is that an action had to be taken. So they could have just left it in there and let.
Okay, right? So can you respond to that explanation? If you can't respond to that explanation, I'm going to kick you. Right? They just made more money
Do I need to
and no longer
respond to
qualified for it.
explanation? Do I
Yes.
need to respond? What do I
Yes.
need to respond
Because
about?
obviously people losing Medicaid because they're just making more money now and they no longer qualify under the eligibility requirements that were left unchanged is significantly different than Donald Trump
Oh, maybe because they went to work? Maybe because they got a job?
changing the eligibility requirements by enforcing like a work requirement for all low income Americans. Like those are just like two, right, conceptually distinct and different ideas, right? Because one is harmful to low income Americans, right? And like one isn't really changing anything to do with who qualifies as a low income American and is just simply kicking people off who are no longer low income Americans in accordance with their guidelines.
Well, just because you disagree with the actions that caused it doesn't mean that it still didn't happen.
Okay, right? I'm not saying that it didn't happen, but I'm saying I don't really care that it happened, right? Because it
Isn't
was
the
expected
argument
to
for
happen.
10 million people
And why
dropping
it
off?
happened is because people just started making more money. So then they no longer needed that service, right? Like I think that these two things are completely different. Like it was natural, normal, and expected, right, to think that a freeze that was implemented because of the pandemic on Medicaid disenrollments would stop when the pandemic stopped.
So why is everybody appalled with the expanded tax credit subsidies are expiring and they won't renew them? Because they were enacted during the pandemic
Okay, like which
and it's no
ones?
longer here. The expanded tax credit subsidy, the ACA.
Okay, talking about the ACA. So I have a question. Was Obama president during the pandemic? Thank you. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next guest. Just because that guy wasn't listening to a damn word that I was saying. Go ahead and hop inside of that queue if you happen to be a Trump supporter. We'll happily get you loaded up into the box. What just like totally like disingenuous caller. Hey, welcome in. Do you support Trump? All right, they're not here. Go ahead and hop inside of that queue if you happen to be Maga. We'll happily get you loaded up into the stream. All right, we're gonna go to move on to Eleanor. Here we go. Oh boy, what a dense old man. You know, I feel like sometimes, honestly, like I'm just like trying to explain these concepts. I'm trying to have a good dialogue, right? And like they're just not here for it at all. And like when they kind of hit that point of just like shutting down because they don't know what to say, because if they say anything, then they're gonna have to conform to reality and reject Maga and reject Trump. They just don't do it, and then they just repeat themselves 10 times like that. Like actually, like chat, how many times did he repeat himself? Well, so many people lost service under Biden. Why are you outraged about that too? And then I'm like, well, it's because the reason they lost service is because they made more money and they no longer qualified for Medicaid. And the reason they all dropped off at once is because of pandemic era policy to limit, right, anybody from disqualifying for Medicaid, right? And then he'd just be like, well, why aren't you outraged by it? Unreal. Go ahead and hop in that queue once again if you're in America to dot. We are struggling here tonight, folks. Angel, thank you so much for the $10 over on Venmo. Angel says, I'm a U.S. Marine veteran and my mom was deported while I was on active duty. I sent you a message on TikTok. Best wishes to you. Okay, Angel, I'll have to check that out. I actually remember you sending me a Venmo about this a while back. I'm really, once again, sorry to hear that happened to you, man. That just, like, seriously super terrible. All the prayers in the world to both you, your family, and your mother. We got that next guest loading up in that box right now. You know, dog walking Trump supporters all night long. Already feeling a little bit defeated because of just how terrible that last guest was. Victoria, thank you for the $10 over on Venmo. Victoria says, thank you. My mom passed from cancer while disabled, and we still had to help pay for her treatments. Our healthcare system is terrible. I couldn't agree more, Victoria, and I'm really sorry to hear that about your mother. We need better healthcare in this country, 110%. Thank you for the $10. As well as Taylor, thank you for the $5 over on Venmo. Brianna with a 5 as well. Callie, thank you for the $10. I really appreciate you so much for the love. Serenity with a $10. Aspen with a 5. Maze with a 10.
For real?
Appreciate you guys. What's up? Do you support Trump?
I do not, but my husband does, and he's the one that wants to debate you.
Okay. All right. Hello, Daisy's husband.
I'm Donovan. Sorry.
What's your name?
Donovan.
Donovan. Okay. Let me go to think like 3 more people, then I'll hop into my debate with you. Hey, Janet, thank you so much for the $10 over on PayPal. Appreciate you for that love, Janet. Stacy, appreciate you so much for the 20 Australian dollars on PayPal, who says thank you for all that you do. I appreciate that, Stacy. I hope that you're still in here. This literally came in 50 minutes ago. Thank you for the love. As well as Victoria, thank you so much for the $10 on PayPal, saying was just protesting in Oregon for No King's Day. While I was leaving, ICE decided they wanted to point a gun at me. Dude, Victoria, dude, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Like, what the fuck? No, please file a report. Please file a report. But thank you for the $10. But seriously, Victoria, file a goddamn report. Launch a civil suit. Make some fucking money. As well as Justin, thank you for the $13 over on PayPal. Appreciate you for that love, Justin. And Rami, thank you for the $50 donation over on Venmo. Rami with the $50. His last guess was painful. Oh yeah, that guy was so insufferable. Holy shit. I appreciate you for the $50, Rami. If you're watching right now, I want you to show some love to Rami down below in that chat. That is ROMI. Let's get 500 Rami W's. Thank you so much for your kindness. And then 2 more here. Jonda, thank you so much for the $25 over on Venmo. All the love to you as well, Jonda. I hope that you're doing well. Thank you for the $25 and good to see you. Thank you, Jonda, Rami, and all the other donors. If you're watching and you'd like to support me, you'd like to support what we do here, you can find my Venmo and my PayPal in the link tree in my bio on TikTok, as well as in the pinned message over on that YouTube stream. Go ahead and take it away. Tell us why you support Trump.
Go.
I don't anymore. But
I'm really sorry for making you guys wait. I'm really happy to hear that you're no longer a Trump supporter. I think that is awesome. We are going to go to move on to the next guest. Unfortunately, we are just looking to talk to people that are still Trump supporters. If you protested today, let me know where down below in that comment section. I'm really interested to hear from the chat. Let me know where you got out. Please share with the class. What's up? Do you support Trump? Hello, Trevor. Are you here? Nope, Trevor's not here. We're going to go ahead and ban Trevor, and we are going to go ahead and move on to that next guest. We got Michael connecting to the stream. Here we go, folks. Yo, Kenna, appreciate you for that Dragon Crown. Okay, it doesn't look like Kenna loaded up. Moving on to the next guest, Griffin. Okay, it looks like we have a lot of people in Boston. A bunch of people in Wyoming. Hell yeah. That's fire. What's up? Do you support Trump?
Yeah.
Okay, how old are you? How old are you, Griffin? Griffin, I can't hear you when you leave the TikTok app. Can you come back, please?
I support Trump.
Okay. How old are you?
Oh, 25.
All right. Tell us why you support the worst president of your 25 years of life. He left. Bruh. Dude. All right. We're going to go to move on to the next guest. Motherfucker. What? What's going on? Can't find a Trump supporter. Yo, Christopher. Dude, good to see you again. Thank you so much for the $100 over on PayPal. Holy fuck, Christopher. Hope you're doing well. Let's get 1,000 Christopher W's. And Christopher attached the same message here that he's attached to a handful of his last donations. Let's go ahead and read through it together. I fucking love this Christopher guy. Update immigration paths. The paths that exist exploit all. We need more than just updating processing speed or mass amnesty. We need more available paths to be here legally. Update legal paths. You're a hero. Christopher, I'm going to say this with my chest. I legitimately think that you are a hero because you are so fucking dead set on achieving this goal. It is admirable. I'm being so like dead serious, Christopher. It is incredibly admirable. I think a lot of us could take some inspiration away from you and just how fucking convicted you are and dead set you are on achieving what you believe in because it is better for the country and better for the world. You're awesome. What's going on, Flight? Do you support Trump? Flight's not here. Maya, hello. I'm going to go ahead and send you an invite to unmute. Are you MAGA?
Yeah,
Okay, how old are you?
18,
What year were you born in?
2007.
All right, we'll hop into the debate. Let me thank two more people before we do. Sydney, thank you for the $50 over at Venmo. Let's get 500 Sydney W's down below in that chat. Thanks for your kindness. All the love to you. Sydney with the $500 says, sorry for your struggle with the guests on this stream. I led my local No King's Day protest today. Dude, good shit for you, Sydney. That is awesome to hear. Sydney also says, thank you for inspiring me to get more into activism and fighting the good fight. I appreciate you. I appreciate you too. Thank you for doing your patriotic duty and even organizing an event. You're fucking awesome. Show some love to Sydney. As well as Mallory. Show some love to Mallory for the 14 Canadian dollars on PayPal, who says, Dean, what's your opinion on furries? Well, I don't know. My opinion is it's never something I could really see myself doing. But who am I to say it's not what other people should be doing? You know? It's kind of something that I never do, but of course, if that's your interest, I respect it, right? It's obviously not harmful to anyone. Go ahead and take it away, Maya. Tell us why you support Trump.
Well, I honestly just came up here because I had a question.
Okay. You don't want to debate about why you support Trump?
Well, no, but I had a question. Like, it was about that, but I just had a question.
Okay, I'm sorry, Maya. Just for the night, I am gonna be enforcing the rules super black and white, either following the rules and get to therefore stand alive, or breaking the rules and therefore get kicked, right? Just so we can hopefully keep a flow of debates. And I'm also not gonna lie, I feel like my temper is short this evening, and I don't want to disadvantage my own mental health by having to deal with trolls and whatnot that'll inevitably be on the live to a higher disposition due to the fact that the rules are kind of gray. You know what I mean? What's up, Gregory? Do you support Trump?
I do.
Okay. How old are you, Gregory?
I'm 18.
Okay. All right. And you're a columnist, so you do journalism?
Yes, I actually write.
Very interesting. Have you ever written about Donald Trump's declaration of war on American cities or his 4 violations of the Constitution in the last 8 months, including but not limited to the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and the 22nd Amendment?
So have I written, can you give me a specific event so I could say if I have or haven't written about that? Because what you referenced is a ideology and not a set. Have I written about Donald Trump's deployment of the National Guard to different cities in the United States? Yes, I have.
Well, I mean, for instance, you're a conservative, right? Conservatives care about the Constitution, freedoms and liberty, right?
Yeah.
So when he signed Executive Order number 14160 into law, that illegally infringed on the 14th Amendment by trying to ban birthright citizenship.
Can you remind me what Executive Order 14160 was?
I was in the middle of it. I got you. It was the one that attempted to illegally ban birthright citizenship for the children born to undocumented immigrants on American soil, even though they have that right per the 14th Amendment. That was blatantly an infringement on the Constitution.
Yeah, that's not true. So it's okay. So it's an interesting point that you bring up there. Number one, I was not in favor of that executive order. I was not in favor of Trump declaring it and that's number one. But to say that the 14th Amendment protects birthright citizenship for undocumented immigrants on U.S. soil is also a stretch, because I don't believe it is up to you to decide that. It is up to Congress to decide that, unless the Supreme Court would rule that would rule that the 14th Amendment protects birthright citizenship for undocumented immigrants.
So they did.
No, the Supreme Court did not rule that birthright citizenship is protected for undocumented immigrants in the United States.
They actually did. They actually did. So this was
Can you
US...
refer to me to the case?
Yeah, this was U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark in 1898, I believe. And like most of the
No, that was documented immigrants. That was not undocumented immigrants.
well, if you
Completely different case.
if you're going to interrupt me, I won't be able to finish the point.
Sorry, my apologies.
Okay. So I understand that Wong Kim Ark, he wasn't an undocumented immigrant. However, right, the ruling did give birthright citizenship to undocumented immigrants on American soil because it gave us a clear definition of what the portion of the 14th Amendment that's typically debated is and subject to the jurisdiction thereof even means, right? So the Chief Justice of SCOTUS in the U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark case ruled, right, specific guidelines for who doesn't qualify for birthright citizenship. And the Chief Justice, alongside the other SCOTUS judges, gave 3 specific categories of people that do not qualify for birthright citizenship per the 14th Amendment and the first section of it because they're not subject to the jurisdiction of U.S. law. Those three specific categories were Indigenous Americans, members of militant invading troops from other countries, and foreign diplomats. Now, of course, later Indigenous Americans got birthright citizenship because of federal law, but still yet, undocumented immigrants don't fall under either of those 3 categories, meaning per the U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark ruling, they do have birthright citizenship. And this was actually like indirectly reaffirmed in 1989 in the Plyer v. Doe SCOTUS case, where undocumented immigrants sued the American government for not giving them free preschool, K through 12 education, right? And then SCOTUS inevitably ruled that they actually do get that under the Constitution, particularly because of the Equal Protections Clause of the 14th Amendment, right? You have to like give everybody equal treatment, equal protections, and because our government gives, right, American children a free education, K through 12, well, therefore, because of the Equal Protections Clause, they also have to give it to the children of undocumented immigrants. Why am I bringing this up, right? If it has nothing to do with birthright citizenship, it's because the Equal Protections Clause of the 14th Amendment uses that same language. You're subject to equal protections. You have that right given that you're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, okay? Right? So in ruling that they can access the right of equal protections under the 14th Amendment, they are ruling that undocumented immigrants are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which of course would also affirm that they are subject to the first section of the 14th Amendment, that being birthright citizenship. So considering the U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark case of the 19th century and the Plyer v. Doe case of the 20th century, it becomes incredibly clear that yes, there's case law over 100 years old to justify that undocumented immigrants are subject to birthright citizenship.
Okay, so the case in U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark, just because it specified 3 different groups that were not subject to the birthright citizenship clause, does not mean that other groups were not. For example, illegal immigrants necessarily during I forgot what year, but in the 19th century were not. Sorry,
you were wrong. Right, those were the 3 explicit groups set out by SCOTUS. They basically said, if you're not in either of these 3 explicit groups, you have birthright citizenship.
No, they said they used them as an example of groups that would not get birthright citizenship. However, illegal immigrants were not even in existence in the 18th century. There was
have birthright citizenship
process in the United States. So therefore, the SCOTUS cannot rule that they were.
Wait. So you think in the 19th century nobody was in America without any documentation?
It was no one was an illegal immigrant in which the U.S. would be deporting them because they had no jurisdiction in the United States.
Okay, what do you think that section of the 14th Amendment means? Right, any person born on American soil and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a citizen of the United States of America. I take that statement and subject to the jurisdiction thereof mean just being subject to the laws of the state. What do you take it to mean?
I don't think I'm the person to interpret that. I think Congress is the person to interpret that.
No, Congress doesn't interpret the Constitution. That's SCOTUS and courts, right? And by the way, if you just want to like wait on the ruling of courts, right? Like not only do we have like Plyer v. Doe, that explicitly ruled undocumented immigrants are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. But we've also had many federal courts explicitly rule that Donald Trump's executive order was unconstitutional and in violation of the 14th Amendment. You're cooked.
Okay, so SCOTUS once again did not rule. You still haven't shown me a case in which SCOTUS ruled that Donald Trump's or any sort of order that prevented the giving of citizenship to undocumented immigrants. SCOTUS did not rule.
Yeah, and they don't need to for my point to be proven.
Okay, well, if no, of course they have to, because if they haven't, yeah. So if something is unconstitutional and SCOTUS didn't rule it as unconstitutional, but you're telling me it's unconstitutional, but as of now it's constitutional.
Unconstitutional things happen all the time that SCOTUS doesn't rule on because they either already have or they just pass it down to some.
No. If SCOTUS were to rule something that was unconstitutional, and the executive branch or some power of government were to rule or perform it regardless of the SCOTUS's ruling, then there would be further action taken by the Supreme Court. Not
okay. So if SCOTUS rules something as unconstitutional, then the person continues to do that unconstitutional thing. Sure, like the courts will take action, but this is completely irrelevant to the debate on if Donald Trump's executive order was unconstitutional, and my incredibly compelling argument that it is unconstitutional because of case law ranging from U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark to SCOTUS case law in U.S. versus Plyer v. Doe in 1989, where they unanimously agreed that yes, undocumented immigrants are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, as well as a common understanding of what the subject to the jurisdiction thereof means, alongside the univocal rulings of federal courts on this specific executive order. My point is clear. My argument is sound, and this is the take unanimously of vast majority of all constitutional scholars. Where do you think I get the take from? I get it from them.
So don't say the vast majority, because that is false. That is also false. And
no, demonstrate to me any reason to believe that the vast majority of constitutional scholars believe that undocumented immigrants do not qualify for birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. Go ahead and prove that.
Go ahead and prove that. I'm not trying to prove that the vast majority of constitutional lawyers do or do not believe in something. That's a stupid argument. That's proof to me that the vast majority of constitutional scholars believe that. You can't, because there has been no study conducted on it.
Yeah, for sure. I can. And me doing that would be because I could only maybe name 3 constitutional scholars that think undocumented immigrants aren't subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, and they give no clear definition of why they think that, and they're all pretty disgraced, right? So if I could only really think of 3 constitutional, if I could really only think of 3 constitutional scholars that disagree with that notion, right? That's obviously gonna set the precedent for a very strong inductive case. That vast majority of them would agree that yes, they do have access to birthright citizenship. Go ahead and unmute. But anyways, do you just want to address my argument head on? Right? So my argument that his executive order was unconstitutional has to do with SCOTUS case law, ranging from U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark to Plyer v. Doe. It has to do with circuit and federal case law, ranging from the federal courts that disputed Donald Trump's executive order when he made it on the issue, and just the fact that you wouldn't be able to purport to me a single constitutional argument. One moment. One moment. 3 constitutional scholars that agree with me?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Sure. Let me go ahead and hop on Google and look them up. Thank you so much. Constitutional
lawyers or whatever.
Documented immigrants. I'm not even going to look up lawyers that agree with this. I'm just going to look up undocumented.
You see your point that you can't say that the vast majority of constitutional scholars agree with something or your argument just because you think so, or just because you don't know the other side. It doesn't mean anything. I'm not saying.
Well, the argument. So I was in the middle of trying to find the name of 3 people that agree with me. I wish that you would have allowed me to finish that opportunity, but seemingly you no longer want me to do that. And it's not that I don't know the other side; it's that there's not another side. There's not a constitutional argument, right? Like, give me a constitutional
There
argument
is.
right now to demonstrate why exactly undocumented immigrants wouldn't qualify for birthright. Like the children, not even undocumented immigrants, the children of undocumented immigrants born on American soil would not qualify under the first section of the 14th Amendment, given that we know they qualify under the third, that third being equal protections.
Okay, so whoa. Okay, so there's multiple parts. So number one, the case you brought up was what, Plyer v. Doe, right?
Yep.
In that case, education is different than birthright citizenship because for citizenship,
but the language of the sections of the 14th Amendment both use that and subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
what do you mean?
Well, like you only get that protection if you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof, the same way that you only get like birthright citizenship if you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
No,
Right?
well, there's different
so
parts.
obviously in that Plyer v. Doe
Equal
ruling,
Protection Clause
they
and the
ruled
Birthright
that like
Citizenship
undocumented
Clause are two
immigrants are
different parts
subject
of
to the
the.
jurisdiction thereof. Okay, maybe I'm like a step ahead. Okay, like I think that maybe like I need to inform you on the basis of like the argument that the children born to undocumented
Can we
immigrants.
acknowledge that the Equal Protection
can
Clause
you
and the
stop?
Birthright Citizenship Clause are two different parts of the Constitution and
Oh
two
my God.
different parts of the 14th Amendment?
So they're two different sections of the 14th Amendment. However,
Yes.
the parallel that I'm making is that in order to qualify for equal protections under the Third Amendment of the 14th, the third section of the 14th, you have to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That's what the language of the section says, right? And it is that same language that exists in the first section of the 14th Amendment, that's birthright citizenship, right? That conservatives such as yourself like to hinge on in attempting to argue that undocumented immigrants and their children born on American soil are not subject to birthright citizenship. Like, for instance, like when you're trying to make an argument that undocumented immigrants, the children of undocumented immigrants born on American soil are not citizens, how do you start that argument? You start that argument by reading the first section of the 14th Amendment, reading all people born on this country and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens, and then you dispute that they're subject to the jurisdiction thereof, right? But like obviously, right, in the Plyer v. Doe case, they ruled that they are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, right, because they had to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof in order to qualify for equal rights. But listen, I want to go here because of something that you said earlier that I asked you about that you didn't answer to, okay? You said, right, that Dean, you cannot possibly say that vast majority of constitutional scholars, right, agree with you and disagree with me, right, for the reason being that you don't know the other argument. So give me that other argument. Give me an argument that the children born to undocumented immigrants on American soil are not subject to the first section of the 14th Amendment and do not have a constitutional right to birthright citizenship. Let's hear the fucking argument.
Because the Constitution does not say illegal immigrants are subject to the are subject to the birthright citizenship clause.
Wait, I have a question. Does the Constitution say that Gregory is subject to the birthright citizenship clause?
What do you mean? That it tells me the wait, are you telling me?
Does the Constitution say Gregory is subject to a right to birthright citizenship?
No, that's a stupid argument because
exactly.
No,
why do you right?
Because
still
I'm
have
not
a
an
claim?
illegal immigrant.
Listen. Why do you still have a claim, right, to birthright citizenship, right, per the Constitution, even though the Constitution doesn't explicitly say you do?
Because the Supreme Court ruled in favor that I have citizenship, and because my parents are citizens, because I have been born in the United States from parents that are citizens, I am a citizen of the United States.
So the Supreme Court rules on things that are challenged. When was it ever challenged that if like you have citizen parents, you don't have a right to birthright citizenship, and then SCOTUS ruled in favor that the
when was it challenged?
Don't pivot. Don't pivot. Just answer my question.
I'm not pivoting. When was it challenged that my citizenship was non-existent, or that because it didn't say someone's name in the Constitution, it's non-existent? That was never challenged.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to prove here. Because I just said, Gregory, how do you know that you have a right to birthright citizenship? And then you said it's because SCOTUS ruled it. But SCOTUS will only rule on an issue that's challenged. And then the question to you was, well, when was it challenged that individuals born to two citizen parents had a right to birthright citizenship? And then SCOTUS ruled that they do. Obviously, they've never done that because that issue wasn't challenged outside of Dred Scott, right, which is, of course, right, going to be the alternative ruling where they ruled that Black Americans do not have birthright citizenship, right? So therefore, when you told me that you know you have a right to birthright citizenship because SCOTUS ruled it as such, you were just making shit up.
No, it's because it has never been questioned. I mean, I don't understand your point.
Oh, so you're saying that there's never been like any like valid question to if the 14th Amendment guarantees you birthright citizenship? So then what is the valid question on if the children of undocumented immigrants born on American soil have a right to birthright citizenship?
So you're asking me to define the difference between me as a person who is born from U.S. citizens than an undocumented immigrant who has come into this country illegally, who does not, who's not supposed to be in this country legally, and being born from illegal parents. You're asking me to define the difference?
Yeah, I'm asking you to give an argument that constitutionally speaking,
Yeah,
the
the
children born
difference
to
is that
undocumented immigrants, listen to what I'm saying, Gregory, calm down. I'm asking you to give an argument that the children born to undocumented immigrants on American soil are not subject to protections under the 14th for birthright citizenship. You can't do it because there's no valid challenge to it. Okay?
Yes.
Right? Like let's literally read it off together. 14th Amendment. Let's read it off together, Gregory. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Hey, I have a question. Are the children, right, of undocumented immigrants people?
Are you telling me that now all people are subject to the 14th Amendment? Because that would be false.
Okay, right. I don't know why you're not answering my question. I'll ask it again.
No, why are you answering my question? I mean,
because you're asking me a question.
It's not your
hey, Gregory.
decision to say
Hey, Gregory, calm down.
Trump's order
Hey,
is constitutional
hey,
or not.
Gregory, calm down. Okay. The reason I'm not answering your question
I'm calm.
is because you're asking it in response to a question that I asked of you. So we're just going to restart.
What's the question that you asked me? Sorry.
Of course, Gregory. I will happily inform you. Once again, the Constitution says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. All right, sweet. Are the children of undocumented immigrants born on American soil people?
But that would be assuming that all people are subject to the jurisdiction thereof are U.S. citizens, and we just discussed how that's not true.
Not at all.
Yes, because
I don't.
you're
Listen, just answer my question. Are the children, right, born to undocumented immigrants on American soil people? Yes or no?
Are diplomats on American soil? Are children from diplomats born on American soil? Are they on American soil?
Fuck.
Yes or no?
I'll answer your question just if it means you'll answer mine. Yes, they're on American soil. Now you answer my question. Are the children, dude? Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm losing my shit. Are the children born to undocumented immigrants on American soil people?
If they live in the United States or if they reside in the United States, and yes, obviously. Wait, but
do you think that people outside of are people outside of America not people?
No. Wait. Just before we go.
So your pre-qualifier there. If they're born in America or in America, then they're people. No, not at all. They just are people. There's no ums, ands, or buts to it. They're just people. No, I'm actually not going to let you do anything because I'm trying, Gregory. I'm trying to run you through a dialogue tree, and you're not letting me, and it's really frustrating me. Okay, all right. So now that we finally agreed that the children born to undocumented immigrants on American soil are people, let's go ahead and move on to that second criteria. Okay, now that we've agreed they're people, are the children born to undocumented immigrants on American soil born on American soil?
I will answer that. Just give me 1 second. I just want to say thank you because I've been watching you for quite some time, and I know we have disagreements, but I respect you a lot. And I just want to say thank you for everything you have done because we have way too many people that are young who aren't really involved in politics, and it's good that you are, and it's good that you're debating because I've learned a lot from you. So I just want to say thank you from that. And I'm a big fan, even though I disagree with you. So
thank you. Thank you for your kind.
Yeah, just back to your question about if illegal immigrants born on American soil are born on American soil or on American soil. Yes, they are.
Okay. So now we've agreed that they're people. We've agreed that they're.
I've never disagreed that they're people when I meant it.
So seemingly, like now, right? We only have like one more thing we got to check off here. Are they subject to the jurisdiction thereof?
Yeah, that's up to the Supreme Court to decide.
Okay, what do you think subject to the jurisdiction thereof means? What do we learn from the U.S. versus Awonkemar case?
Well, there's a lot that goes into that because the
So
Supreme
what goes
Court
into
has
it?
ruled. Well, we have to figure out if illegal immigrants are subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
I'm just simply, we need to figure out what it means to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof first. So what does
Well,
that mean?
what's your definition? What do you mean by it?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I think it means, and then you'll tell me what you think it means. I think it means being subject to U.S. law.
I let me think. I agree with you. No. Actually, I disagree. I think subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Exhaustively subject to the U.S. law. What do you think it means?
What do you mean by exhaustively?
Like all laws are applicable. All applicable laws are applicable. But no, I interrupted you there. You're about to say what you think it means. So what do you think it means?
Yeah, I think it means that the United States has a responsibility to to
do what?
how do I word it? Let me think. Has a responsibility for you, so you have the same you have the same rights, you have the same liberties as a U.S. citizen, or you have liberties and all of the liberties that a U.S. citizen has, or most of them, are applicable to you if you are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Why are people saying I'm 17? I was 17 last year.
Okay,
Sorry.
What year were you born in?
I was born in 2007.
Okay.
I turned 17 in April. I mean 18 in April, my apologies.
Okay, so you're saying having all the same rights as a citizen?
Yeah, well,
can you tell me
the Constitution?
Could you tell me how
First
you're
Amendment,
inferring that from the statement and subject to the jurisdiction thereof?
Well, how are you inferring the fact that the subject to the jurisdiction thereof means that you are? I mean, the U.S. law is applicable to you.
I'll tell you if you tell me.
Okay, so how am I inferring? Because there's nothing to tell me that. I mean that's just what makes sense. What do you mean?
I'm asking you to explain how that makes sense.
Because the ruling was about a citizen a clause in.
We're not talking about a ruling. We're talking about your interpretation of 5 words in the 14th Amendment of the American Constitution and what you think it means. I asked you what you think it means, and then you said possessing all the same liberties as American citizens. And now I'm just simply asking you to explain why you think it means that.
Yeah, because what the 14th Amendment does, the Equal Protection Clause, which states that
the Equal Protections Clause. What is what does the Equal Protections Clause have to do with what the subject to the jurisdiction thereof means?
Because it discusses the ability or the prevention of a state. The Equal Protection Clause states that a state shall not deprive anyone of life, liberty, and property, which is what is protected.
Oh, so it's like if you have like those equal protections, right, then you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that.
Then what's the relevance of the Equal Protections Clause?
Wait. No. You can still
why did you just bring up the Equal Protections Clause? What was the relevance of that?
Because it's proving my point in which in the Equals Protection Clause, what it does is it protects the life, liberty, or property. And if the life, liberty, and property of if the life, liberty, and property are protected, then you are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So I guess, I mean, maybe, yes, I do believe illegal immigrants are protected under the Equal Protections Clause. So what's the argument there?
Was that clear to anyone?
Illegal immigrants are protected by the Equal Protection Clause. So yes.
What does that have to do with my request of you to explain your inference of what subject to the jurisdiction thereof means?
I just explained to you, if you are under the law, if American law protects your right to life, liberty, or property, if that right is protected, if the United States has a responsibility to uphold and protect that law for you.
Okay. Well, it seems like SCOTUS agreed that they have an obligation to uphold and protect the rights of undocumented immigrants, Plyer v. Doe. Does that mean that undocumented immigrants are subject to the jurisdiction thereof?
No, but it doesn't.
How so?
You don't. You can still be subject to the jurisdiction thereof without being a citizen. For example, let me just give you an example.
Like
If a foreign
undocumented immigrants, because like the state has an obligation to uphold their equal treatment per Plyer v. Doe.
wait, sorry, can you repeat what you just said?
Like undocumented immigrants would be an example of somebody that's subject to the jurisdiction thereof that's not a citizen. The reason being that the state has an obligation to uphold their equal treatment per the ruling of Plyer v. Doe.
Yeah, but Plyer v. Doe doesn't
Yeah?
uphold the equal protections clause in its entirety to illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants are not given the same.
So it does
the
uphold.
same.
It does uphold the clause in its entirety.
No, it does not, because then that would mean that illegal immigrants have to go through the entirety of due process in order to get deported, which they are not.
So they actually do have a right to due process because of the.
They do
protections
not
clause.
have a right to the entirety of the due process.
To its constitutional extent, they technically do. You're talking about
What do you mean?
you're talking about limited due process, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, SCOTUS ruled in 2021 that limited due process doesn't violate the due process segment of the 14th Amendment, right? So they are entirely protected by the right to due process under the American Constitution, right? It just is so. It's just is so yet the case that the incredibly conservative Supreme Court ruled that limited due process.
No. Don't
is
say
not a
incredibly.
breach.
Don't say
Is
incredibly.
not a breach of like their right to due process.
But so, do you think that a illegal immigrant has the same exact process of due process than a citizen?
Well, they have the same exact protection under the due process clause of the 14th Amendment.
No. But what do you mean? But the process is different. So if I have,
I'm going to repeat this. So I understand that limited due process was passed by under like the Clinton administration in the 90s. However, right, SCOTUS ruled that what they passed, that limited due process, right, is still yet an actualization of the total protection under the 14th Amendment. So, like, for instance, right, if our government wanted to give limited due process to a citizen, that would technically be constitutional.
What? Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
They're just calling it limited due process. It's not, but in the eyes of SCOTUS, in their ruling on the Constitution, it's not actually limiting their 14th Amendment right to due process.
No, because of no, it's the right that not the Supreme Court, excuse me. It's because citizens.
Did you know that SCOTUS has actually ruled what subject to the jurisdiction thereof means?
I would assume it has. Okay, what's the point?
Yeah, so this is coming from a footnote in the Wonkamart case. Quote unquote, impossible to construe the words subject to the jurisdiction thereof in the opening sentence of the 14th Amendment as less comprehensive than the words, quote unquote, within its jurisdiction. Okay? In concluding sentence of the same section, or to hold that persons, quote unquote, within the jurisdiction of one of the states of the Union are not, quote unquote, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. So all that they concluded, right, is that they are within the jurisdiction of the United States of America. So can you agree that when an undocumented immigrant is in America, they are within the jurisdiction?
That's not what you just said, though, because that would mean that's the assumption that a foreign diplomat, which the Wonkamart case specifically says is not the same. A foreign diplomat would still be subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So being subject to the jurisdiction.
No, they're not, because of what Justice Gray. You're wrong because of what Justice Gray said. Okay, all right, you're wrong, right? Because Gray said, right, that the jurisdiction, right, is the protection and consequently subject to the laws, right? And like foreign diplomats don't have that, right? Because they have what's called diplomatic immunity.
I understand, but that's not.
Hey, Matt, how do I explain the Constitution to somebody that just denies it?
Okay, I think we're getting kind of hung up here. So you can read Wong in a way that says that when applied to Wong Kim Ark, that it applies to other people. But I think what you're missing is that in the footnote, because in Plyer, they did not directly address the meaning of the jurisdiction, but they clarified in a footnote that they're taking the meaning directly from Wong, which is what, and that's what Dean gave you, because Justice Gray in Wong gave the definition and the meaning of what subject to the jurisdiction thereof actually means. So that's why when Dean read the footnote, he says, Justice Gray is point blank saying that if you apply a stringent definition of what this means, you're excluding not only those born outside, but you're going to exclude those of the those who are white also, because many who are Irish, Italian, and else would not be citizens if you applied the rule thereof. That's why he says, and he gives a clear definition of what it means, which is what Dean gave you.
Right. And then in the Plyer v. Doe case, as Matt just pointed out, the justices were like, well, in order for us to determine if undocumented immigrants have a right to equal protection, right, under the Equal Protections Clause, they had to understand what subject to the jurisdiction thereof means, as that phrase is also implemented within the Equal Protections Clause. And then SCOTUS was like, well, we actually already have precedent set forth for what subject to the jurisdiction thereof means. They pointed it back to U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark, and then they ruled that, well, the interpretation of what subject to the jurisdiction thereof even means from the U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark case does apply to undocumented immigrants in America, and that's where they got their ruling from, that they have equal protections. So do you see here how there actually is SCOTUS case law to definitively prove, right, that in accordance with the current interpretation of the 14th Amendment and what the subject to the jurisdiction thereof means, it very specifically applies to undocumented immigrants. And that was an intentional ruling that SCOTUS made in in Plyer v. Doe.
So what you're saying is that under what you're saying, the Equal Protection Clause would mean that everyone who is under the Equal Protection Clause and is automatically under the Citizenship Clause. So if you're under the Equal Protection Clause, you're under the Citizenship Clause, right?
What I'm saying is that you do meet the third and final criteria to be guaranteed birthright citizenship.
What do you mean?
That you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof, meaning that SCOTUS has ruled you meet that third criteria to get access to birthright citizenship. Like there's three criteria to get access to birthright citizenship. You got to be a person, you got to be born in America, and you have to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Plyer v. Doe proves that undocumented immigrants are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and you already agreed with me earlier that they're people born in America, which means they meet all three criteria in order to gain access to a right to birthright citizenship. That's what I'm saying. Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand. But
do you disagree?
Yes, I disagree.
What particular part do you disagree with?
That
do you disagree with that Plyer v. Doe? So do you disagree that Plyer v. Doe ruled undocumented immigrants are subject to the jurisdiction thereof? Do you disagree with that? Yes or no?
Yes, because the Equal Protection Clause and the Birthright Citizenship Clause are completely different. And if you are subject to the...
What's one similarity between the Equal Protections Clause and the Birthright Citizenship Clause? Is that in both clauses, in order to be protected by them, you have to be you have to be warrant to this and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Can you agree?
Wait, sorry?
Can you agree that in order to be protected by the Equal Protections Clause, you have to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof?
No.
You don't agree to that?
No, I do not.
Matt, is that not what Plyer v. Doe ruled in their footnotes, right? Is that they
are
subject
on.
to the jurisdiction
He's
thereof?
saying that
if you are within a
does not
jurisdiction,
apply
it's
to
different than being
those.
subject to the jurisdiction. They're two different things.
Sorry, please say that over again.
If you are within a jurisdiction, it's different than being subject to the jurisdiction. What the Equal Protection Clause does is it protects you if you are within a jurisdiction. Therefore, it is much broader than the Birthright Citizenship Clause, which protects you if you are subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Yes, okay. So how are you applying that back to the very first clause? That's what we're talking about, whether or not the person who is subject to the jurisdiction actually gets birthright citizenship. How does that relate to the equal protection?
No, yeah, what I'm saying is that
in the footnotes of the Plyer v. Doe case, they pointed back to U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark's ruling on what it means to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof in making their ruling to understand what that statement means.
So you're telling? Oh, okay. Continue. What did they say? So they said that subject to the jurisdiction thereof means that you're on U.S. land. Is that what they said?
Well, I mean, I've already given you the description, like the literal quotes from U.S. versus Juan Camargue.
Yeah,
to
and
understand what it
what
means
that
to be,
showed is
what,
that
what it
even the
means to
Supreme
be,
Court didn't define it. The
what it
Supreme Court.
means to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof, right? And how they set out like 3 criteria, right, for who is and who is not eligible for it, right? And then that was later referenced by Plyer v. Doe to determine that undocumented immigrants have a right to equal treatment, right? And now you are saying that there's a difference to be within the jurisdiction and subject to. So what does it mean to be subject to the jurisdiction? What does that mean to you?
It's not something that I can answer because the Supreme Court hasn't answered it either.
Wait. So you don't know what
Different.
it means? So then how do you know that you're subject to it?
Okay.
How do you, if you don't know what it means to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof, then how do you know that you are subject to the jurisdiction thereof and therefore have a right to birthright citizenship?
Because I have a citizenship.
Because you have citizenship. Okay, well, how do you know, right, that you were not like given that citizenship and like out of whack and not in alignment with the 14th Amendment? How do you know that they didn't get it wrong in granting you citizenship? Like, how do you know that the Constitution truly guarantees that to you and the systems in which granted that citizenship to you weren't wrong?
Because the Constitution, according to its framers, when they created the 14th Amendment, or when the 14th Amendment was created, there was no question whether a U.S. citizen who was born from 2 citizen parents were given U.S. citizenship. This was not a question. This was
Okay,
obvious.
so you're basically saying,
if my
like,
citizenship
whatever,
is being questioned,
you're basically
my
saying
citizenship isn't
you
being
don't.
questioned. It's
You're,
the
you're,
que-
you're
it's the
basically
citizen-
saying that you don't know what it means to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof, but you just know that you are. Like, regardless of what it means, you don't know what it means. You just know that you are.
Also, Dean, by the way,
You don't know what
his
subject to
whole-
the jurisdiction thereof means either.
No, actually we do, because as Dean said, Justice Gray in Wong gave the definition. He said, quote, impossible to construe the words subject to the jurisdiction thereof in the opening sentence as less comprehensive than the words within a jurisdiction in the concluding sentence of the same section, or to hold that persons within the jurisdiction of one of the states are not in the same subject to that jurisdiction, meaning that they are the same. Justice Gray says they are the same.
And that's why Plyer v. Doe referenced back to it.
Yes, exactly. Because
there you go.
In Plyer, they said that the state of Texas cannot discriminate to children of undocumented immigrants because, based on that text, they are within the jurisdiction and subject to it thereof.
Boom, there you go. Yes, there you go. All right. Yeah, you're cooked now, Gregory. Okay, so Plyer v. Doe determined that within the jurisdiction means the same thing as subject to the jurisdiction because the footnotes of Chief Justice, what's his name, Gray, right, from the U.S. versus Juan Camargue case in 1898. So, okay, right, we don't really know, right, apparently, according to you, we don't know what subject to the jurisdiction thereof means. We don't know what within the jurisdiction thereof means, but we do know that they mean the same thing in accordance with interpretations set forth by Plyer v. Doe, referencing back to Justice Gray's conclusion from U.S. versus Juan Camargue.
Yeah. So I just want to find the footnote just so I could read it because I'm a little.
Footnote 10.
Oh my God, dude. What's up with the debates tonight? They're different. They're different than they usually are.
It's that kind of night.
I guess so. I'm tired. I'll keep going though.
I bet.
I mean, I'm definitely like, I'm having to really get into the nitty gritty, and then I got to repeat the nitty gritty like around 30 times. But what now, Greg? Where do you go from here? Now that we understand SCOTUS has ruled these two things mean the same thing.
I still don't agree that SCOTUS has ruled that within its jurisdiction and subject to its jurisdiction.
Okay, well then, so you're denying the footnotes from Justice Gray. Why?
No. I'm gonna just let me find it first because I have never seen that. Just let me find it and then I'll go right back.
Okay, while you're doing that, let me thank Fran. Thank you so much for the $15 over on Venmo. Fran with the $15 says, thank you for being so patient with some very misinformed and clueless people. You're a better person than me. Thank you, Fran. Show some love to Fran down below for the $15. I'm trying my best to be patient. I'm kind of like failing a little bit. It's all right though. As well as Rihanna, thank you so much for the $25 over on Venmo. Show some love to Rihanna down below in that chat. Rihanna says, "Hey Dean, I went to my first ever protest today. Unfortunately, my friends were too nervous to go with me, so I went on my own. I was terrified because I'm in a relatively conservative town, but the turnout was awesome and it was an amazing experience." Rihanna, same here. I'm also in a very conservative town, and the turnout was huge. Fucking huge. It's insane. It really makes you think a lot higher of those around you sometimes. Thank you for the $25. As well as Serenity, thank you so much for the $10 over on Venmo. Appreciate you for the love, Serenity. Madeline with the $10 says, "This guy's insufferable. Birthright citizenship is one of the least gray areas of the law," coming from a lawyer. Yeah, it's not gray at all. As well as Angel. Thank you so much for the $20 over on Venmo. Show some love to Angel down below. Angel says, "Can I just say you shouldn't have gone live tonight? Not because I don't enjoy being able to watch your content, but just looking at your eyes, I could tell you're tired. Take care of yourself first." You know what? So I was actually looking at my eyes on the phone, and I agree. I do look like really tired.
Yeah.
Almost like my eyes are like starting to like go gray or something. I don't know. Like you could tell that I'm really fucking tired. But no, listen, I love what I do, and I wanted to be able to come on here and try to change some minds. As well as Hannah, thank you for the $10 over on PayPal. Abigail with a 2 and Jacqueline with a 10. As well as Lena, thank you so much for the $20 over on Venmo. Lena with a $20. Let's get 200 Lena W's. Says, "Have you seen the Trump reposts with Harry Sisson in it? What a man child?" No, I haven't seen it. I'll have to check it out.
Sorry, Dana, I didn't interrupt you.
No, I'm done. Go ahead, man.
Okay, and and thank you to David also. Thank you, David, for the $100. I don't know what the fuck I did for that, but thank you, David, and thank you for the very kind message too. I really do appreciate you. Thank you, David, so much.
Huge W.
Yeah, thank you, David. I really appreciate it. Okay, Real, did you find the quote?
Okay, so yeah, the ruling though also says that it's universal, and it's the 14th Amendment provisions are applicable without regard to any differences of race, color, or nationality. So that is implying that all people get access to the Equal Protections Clause.
Yes.
So, yeah, but that would go against Wong Kim Ark because
No. Wong Kim Ark only settles the case of the birthright citizenship clause. It doesn't settle the case about equal protection clause. They are separate clauses for a reason. All that Justice Gray is doing is settling what the meaning of jurisdiction is.
They are subject to, or the people who are subject to that.
Yes, exactly. Because what the court does in Plyer is say, based on what Justice Gray gave, which is a very detailed analysis of the meaning of the word or of that phrase, they say, based on that, we're going to apply that also to the Equal Protection Clause.
Wait, sorry, can you repeat what you just said?
Sure. They say in Plyer that because Justice Gray, as an example, gave such a detailed analysis of the phrase, right? In Wong, he gave a very detailed case about it. They say we're going to apply that to what it means to be within the jurisdiction.
So what do you mean? Are you telling me that he is saying that within its jurisdiction and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are the same, and therefore
yes, because in paragraph 74 of Wong, he says, quote, "It is impossible to construe the words subject to the jurisdiction thereof in the opening sentence of the 14th Amendment as less comprehensive than the words within its jurisdiction that is found in the concluding sentence of the same section. Therefore, to hold that persons within the jurisdiction of one of the states of the Union are not also subject to the jurisdiction thereof." So he's saying that they're the same.
What now, GPT Greg?
Can you read the last part of the quote again?
Sure. So, it is impossible to construe the words subject to the jurisdiction thereof in the opening sentence as less comprehensive than the words within its jurisdiction in the concluding sentence of the same section, or to hold that persons within the jurisdiction of the states of the Union are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
But then that would mean that if you are subject to the jurisdiction, then you are within its jurisdiction. So they're the same thing. That's what it's saying.
Yes, exactly. That's what Justice Gray says. Justice Gray says that being subject to the jurisdiction is the same as being within the jurisdiction. It is not less comprehensive. It is not less or better than the other.
But we just went over how diplomats are not subject to the jurisdiction.
By the way, Gray was one of the justices that made that ruling, right? And Gray's justification there would be that they're not fully within the jurisdiction, which is true.
Wait, sorry?
Yeah, so Justice Gray's justification there would be that they're not fully
Justification on what?
That they're not fully subject to the jurisdiction thereof because they're not fully within the jurisdiction thereof.
What do you mean they're not fully within the jurisdiction thereof?
Like, that would be the justification for the notion that subject to the jurisdiction thereof can be interchangeable within the jurisdiction thereof, while like still not giving diplomats birthright citizenship by like arguing that they're not fully within the jurisdiction thereof.
How are they not within the jurisdiction thereof, though?
Go ask Justice Gray. Go ask the SCOTUS.
No,
wait, hold on.
If they're not interchangeable,
if you're talking about diplomats,
if they're not interchangeable,
if you're talking about diplomats.
No, but they can't mean the same thing.
They are.
They are. Yeah, we just gave you interpretation from SCOTUS.
But diplomats are protected under the equal.
No, that's a limitation of Congress because in the 14th Amendment and in the actual discussions, they limit that by saying that diplomats, by the very job, right, are subject to a king or to like some other country. By being a diplomat, you are by definition subject to somebody else.
Yeah, but you're still within its jurisdiction because the Equal Protections Clause protects, let's say, children of diplomats.
Yes, here in the United States, but we make an exemption for that because we say that because Congress explicitly said that those do what?
They're different then. If
it's like the same with exemption.
With exemption? Is that what you're saying? So it's the same with
Congress
exemption?
Congress gave.
That's not what we're saying. That's what SCOTUS said.
Exemptions to it. Yeah.
No. Oh,
I don't know why you think that like you're debating us. You're just literally debating the Supreme Court.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
You're telling
me
that something means something. Just in one case, it doesn't mean the same thing, and in another case, it does.
We're saying that it always means this, right? And even though it always means this, they make exemptions for this, and they make those exemptions explicit.
But what is to tell that illegal immigrants can't be a part of those exemptions?
Because are they foreign diplomats? No. Are they members of militant invading forces from other countries?
No, they're not in it.
So therefore, they're not within those exemptions.
Okay, so what if the Supreme Court rules that illegal immigrants are within those exemptions?
Okay, then it would be constitutional. But until they make that ruling, it's unconstitutional.
No, because we don't know if illegal.
Yes.
We don't know if
oh
illegal
my God.
immigrants.
Yes, we do know because once again, for the last time, GPT Greg, you're getting on my fucking nerves. Oh my God, you're getting on my nerves. They said subject to the jurisdiction thereof means within the jurisdiction, right? Can't be more comprehensive than that. That's what Justice Gray said, right?
Dean, that's the important part, though, right? I'm sorry, but that's the important part. Gray is saying that one is not less comprehensive than the other. Right. That's the main point, right? He's saying that because in Wong, they're saying that those are two separate things and that one is less than the other. Gray is saying, no, they're not. They may not mean the exact same thing, but they're not less than the other. So you cannot consider one to be lesser than. That's his main point.
What do you mean lesser than?
Okay, because to say...
also, they don't have equal protection. They have diplomatic immunity, which gives them a higher level of protection. Oh my God! Wow! Foreign diplomats are not subject to the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, right? Because of their diplomatic immunity, they actually have a higher, unequal level of protection.
Yeah, and Dean, do you know why they are not given equal protection? It's because they are not subject to the jurisdiction thereof,
Yeah.
and therefore they are not within the jurisdiction.
And therefore, that's what makes it legal to give them diplomatic immunity. Okay.
Exactly, because we
Right?
provide it to them because we know that the Constitution does not grant it to them.
Right.
So we give them something extra.
Right. Think about it this way. Think about it this way, Greg. Would it be constitutional for like Trump to sign an executive order into law tomorrow saying that you could break like 90% of laws and be exempt from all punishment? No, that would be ruled as unconstitutional because
No,
now
but-
all of a
but
sudden you
they're
are
not-
being
they're
treated
not subject to the
unequally
equal
under the
protection clause
equal
because they
protection.
don't have
One second.
protection.
One second. Stop
not
it. Stop.
because-
Stop it. Stop talking, Greg. Would it be constitutional for like SCOTUS to rule tomorrow that like you or like a group of people, like white people, right, are like exempt from like any punishment and have immunity from 90% of crimes? Would that be constitutional?
That white people have immunity to 90% of crimes?
Right. Would that be constitutional?
If President Trump signed an order that white people had exemptions to
Would
90%
that
of
yes?
crimes,
Would that be constitutional?
I can't imagine it being constitutional.
No, it would be unconstitutional because it would breach like a lot. But one of the parts of the Constitution that it would breach would be the Equal Protections Clause, right? Because now all of a sudden you are unequally treating white people differently than non-white people, correct?
Yes, based off race.
So then why is it constitutional to unequally treat foreign diplomats from non-foreign diplomats? It's because the Equal Protections Clause doesn't apply to them. Because
But
they're
not-
not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and because of Justice Gray's ruling in U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark that it's not more or less comprehensive than within the jurisdiction thereof, therefore they're not within the jurisdiction thereof either, meaning they don't have equal protections. And because of that, Congress gave them diplomatic immunity. Get pushed!
What? Okay, so no, because that would mean that the federal that okay, so let's say that foreign diplomats previously had protection under the law, right? The 14th Amendment, they had equal protection. Now Donald Trump, let's say, signs it. So as you said, now they have even more.
Sorry, I just had to cut you off. Amy in the YouTube chat says this is the most boring conversation I've ever heard from Dean. Yeah.
Law can be boring, you know.
Yeah, if unless you like really care about the nitty gritty of law and constitutional scholarship, this is gonna be boring as fuck. I'm hopefully gonna be done with this soon. Do you just have any like refutation of me absolutely pushing you there? By the way, great team we're making here, Matt. This motherfucker is getting absolutely destroyed.
Thanks, Dean.
Yeah. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry, I'm just trying to make myself a little bit less dead inside.
Sorry?
Well, I feel dead inside. This conversation's very killing.
Oh. Okay, so where was I? Okay, the reason why foreign diplomats are not subject or are not subject to the Equals Protection Clause doesn't necessarily mean it, or is not because of the fact that they are within its jurisdiction or not within its jurisdiction. So just because they're not,
then why are they not subject to equal protections?
But I don't know. I actually don't know. I would have to research that. However, it doesn't mean that it's because they are not within its jurisdiction. Because to be within its jurisdiction, no matter who you are subject to the Equal Protection Clause protects you.
Right.
So,
but they're not within.
No, because they are
the jurisdiction.
Title 18, I believe, is a specific provision that subjects foreign diplomats to a different code.
Different code? What do you mean? Are you saying the Constitution?
A different law. That's
what are you,
higher.
What are you saying? I'm confused.
No, the justification for foreign diplomats not being subject to the 14th Amendment, or specifically the Equal Protections Clause, is not because they are not within its jurisdiction. That's not why.
And then what's the reason?
Well, what's to tell you that that is the reason?
Because that'd
Are
be the
foreign
only
diplomats
reason
not
why they
within its
wouldn't.
jurisdiction, or foreign diplomats not within
Because
the United States?
that's the only reason they wouldn't be subject to it. I mean, like, what's another possible reason?
I don't know. I would have to research into
Right,
that.
exactly.
But
I mean,
why is that
I'm
your...
reading this from Wong, and I think that in Wong, Gray cites the fact that in the history and tradition of the country, that he says that it has never been the case to deny someone the right of citizenship to a native-born children of foreign white parents that are not also in the in the diplomatic service of their own country. So he's saying that outside of, because we have a history and long tradition of basically separating out those who are diplomats, that's why they don't count. Because you can also read the notes of the people who drafted like that amendment, and they say explicitly in there that these groups don't count.
Why are you writing so fucking hard, right, for like a goddamn wannabe like authoritarian? Like, dude, this is insane.
Wait, are you asking me?
This is just insane. Okay, here's like me and Matt being like, well, let's just go ahead and like read U.S. versus Wonka-Mark. Let's read SCOTUS case law, right, from 1897. Let's read SCOTUS case law from 1987. Let's read federal court in their case law, right, with everybody that like ruled that this executive order was unconstitutional on the federal level after it was signed into law. Let's like literally go into the justices' footnotes, okay? Let's read, right, their description of what subject to the jurisdiction thereof means to know what the current interpretation is in SCOTUS, right? And even though we're doing all of this, right, like you're just still being like, nah, I don't want to buy it.
The court,
I'm gonna go
would
ahead.
You say packing the court
I'm gonna go ahead.
dictator or authoritarian?
I'm gonna go ahead and just try this one last time. Okay.
Would you say that's authoritarian?
I'm not going to answer your question until we're done.
But you just said Donald Trump is an authoritarian leader, right. and we're trying to.
We could happily go through my reasons why I think that after this. Okay. So
but
we read. No, calm down, Cody. Greg, calm down, Greg. Okay. You remind me of this guy named Cody. He sucks. So do you. But listen. Okay. So now that we've read the footnotes from Justice Gray in U.S. versus Wonka-Mark, when he says being subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Wait, can you just answer my question?
No. So
I've been speaking with you for like an hour.
No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Fuck you. Okay?
Why?
Why? Because we
Adam
need to go
Schiff
one topic
wants
at a
to pack
time.
the court, and Democrats are authoritarian.
Hey, Greg, stop trying to pivot. You're scared. Listen, okay?
No, answer my question.
No,
just answer it.
Yes, answer my question, Dean. Answer my question, right? So you could try to get around what I'm about to say. Very cute. Sit down. All right.
No.
So no. Yeah, I am going to ignore you until we could finish at this point because we're so close, okay? We're terribly close, Greg. We're not going to pivot now. Stop acting entitled, all right? Just sit down.
No,
hear me out for what I have to say. You're acting incredibly. You literally think that you are entitled to pivot after me and Matt have poured our goddamn souls into trying to just simply educate you on this subject. And now that we're so fucking close to reaching a conclusion, you want to just ignore what we've put into this conversation to get ourselves to this point and completely change the topic. So Greg, right, I'm asking you a simple question that I'm not going to allow you to pivot away from. Sit the fuck down, please, for the last time, sir. Okay? Now that we've come to understand Justice Gray's footnotes and the U.S. versus Wonka-Mark case, when he says being subject to the jurisdiction thereof is not more or less comprehensive than being within the jurisdiction thereof, right? And you agree undocumented immigrants are within the jurisdiction thereof, right? Given the fact that they qualify for equal protections. And that's not more or less comprehensive than being subject to the jurisdiction thereof. This means that they're also subject to the jurisdiction thereof, right?
No, I do not believe
Explain
that.
how. Given that it's not more or less comprehensive, and you agree that they're within the jurisdiction thereof.
Can you just first answer my question? I mean, I have one question this entire time.
No, I'm not. I'm going to need you to answer
not?
this. Right? Because I already told you I'm not going to entertain the pivot.
I'm not. It's not a pivot. It's a really simple question. If you think packing the Supreme Court
if you don't think that that's a pivot,
authoritarian, and you don't want to answer it because you're scared to answer it.
If you don't think that's a pivot, then you don't know what a pivot is, right? Like obviously.
Wait. So
right?
Just
like,
why are you
like obviously right? It's going to be a pivot, right, to change the subject when we're talking about right? Like very minuscule footnotes on like SCOTUS rulings to determine if undocumented immigrants have birthright citizenship to launch a conversation about if it's authoritarian to win a Pax SCOTUS. Okay, that's an obvious pivot.
No, but you said
You're
you
not
started.
you're
First said.
you're not trying to you're not going to convince anybody here. And if you're now going to accuse me of starting it because I said that Trump's an authoritarian, okay, well then I apologize for starting it. We could hold off about my comments of Trump being an authoritarian after we finish on this topic. My apologies one last time. All right. So now that we have cleared that up, go ahead and respond. Now that we've learned from Justice Gray in U.S. versus Wonka Mark that being within the subject to the jurisdiction thereof, being within the jurisdiction thereof is not more or less comprehensive than being subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and we know undocumented immigrants are within the jurisdiction thereof via Plyer v. Doe's ruling, does this mean that we therefore also know that they are subject to the jurisdiction thereof, given that it's not more or less comprehensive?
Okay, so because the Supreme Court has not ruled or has said that you can or cannot be within its jurisdiction, so the Supreme Court has not commented whether you can be within its jurisdiction and not be subject. If you can be in one or the other.
That comment is coming from Justice Gray saying that it's not more or less comprehensive.
No. He has not. He did not say that. He did not say whether you can be within.
Yeah, he did. He did. I thought that we went over this, Matt. Matt, do you want to read it again, where he's like, it's not more comprehensive?
Yeah. Impossible to construe the word subject to the jurisdiction thereof in the opening sentence of the 14th Amendment as less comprehensive than the words within its jurisdiction in the concluding sentence of the same section, or to hold that persons within the jurisdiction of one of the states of the Union are not also subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
If they were the same, the wording in the 14th Amendment would be the same.
Okay, so do you want to respond to what Chief Justice Gray said?
I just did. I just responded. I don't believe that is a thing that defines. I don't believe what he said defines what within its jurisdiction and subject to its jurisdiction mean, and if they're exactly the same.
Okay,
I don't believe
you
that
said that
defines it.
it's not more comprehensive.
What does that mean?
Right.
It means you can't give one less weight than the other.
Right.
Does it? But what is less weight?
It means that, for example, in Wong, they were saying that being subject is of lesser value than other things. And what he's saying is, no, it's not, because they both have an equal symbiosis here, where one is not less comprehensive than the other. Because Justice Gray was going over the history of what the word jurisdiction means. He had to look at both of those phrases, both phrases in the opening section and in the end section. And he goes over what that means, which is why he concludes, by the way, that every citizen, quote, every citizen or subject of another country, while domiciled here, is within the allegiance and the protection and consequently subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. He says it point blank.
Oh my God, he does say it point blank. Any subject of another country, while domiciled here, right, are in allegiance and of protection and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Man, okay, now you're extra cooked.
Well, sorry, what did they say? Can you repeat what he said?
Sure. Justice Gray concludes that every citizen, quote, every citizen or subject of another country, while domiciled here, is within the allegiance and the protection and consequently subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
So every citizen or citizen of another country.
Yes.
Is that what he said?
Yes, every citizen or subject to another country while domiciled here. Okay.
What does while domicile here mean? I mean,
it means that they live here. It means they have a place to live.
Okay, so why isn't a foreign diplomat involved in that? A foreign diplomat has a place to live here. So why are they different? Is there an exception?
Because Justice Gray says, based on history and tradition, and based on what the actual people who made the amendment said, they explicitly said that diplomats and children of diplomats do not count in this. He goes back to the original notes that was made by the founders and by those who drafted the 14th Amendment, and they explicitly say that there are certain people who do not qualify, and being a diplomat and being children of diplomats are one of those exclusions.
So are we now looking in the Constitution through an originalist point of view? Or?
I didn't say that I disagree with that kind of thing. You have to look at what people said at the time when trying to figure out
but illegal immigrants
what these
didn't
words
exist
mean.
At that time. So how can
No, they did, because Wong would have been considered by our definition to be
No,
undocumented
no,
immigrant
no.
by our own definition.
Wait, by your own definition, it would have been a
At the
Wong would have
yes,
been illegal.
based on how we define what an undocumented based on how we define what an undocumented immigrant is,
What do you mean
right?
based on how we?
We would call the parents of Wong, they would be undocumented because they were not citizens.
That's not what
But they were here.
What do you mean? An undocumented immigrant is an illegal immigrant who doesn't have any right to be here in the United States. But
Yes.
a illegal immigrant.
Still, the point goes.
Was
Still, the point goes that what Justice Gray was trying to clarify was simply meaning what does it mean. What does it mean to be subject? Because there was no dispute that Wong was born here in the United States. There was no dispute about that, right? Oh,
Yeah, but
the only dispute
there was no
was whether he
illegal
was
immigrant.
subject.
The dispute about whether she or her parents were legal or illegal was not questionable. It was legal. It even says that.
Yes, because they were basing it on an act of Congress that did seek to exclude Chinese immigrants from the country, and so that's what made them illegal. Was because there was a law in place, a very racist law, by the way.
Are you arguing that Wong was an illegal immigrant? Is that what you're arguing right now?
No. They. Oh my God. I don't know how else to say this. The people who were saying that Wong was not a citizen were saying because of X, Y, and Z, this is what makes him a non-citizen. He was saying I was a citizen because I was born here and I was subject to that jurisdiction. And people in the chat, don't worry. It's okay. It's fine. I'm not upset by what people are saying. It doesn't matter. Okay, I understand. It's fine.
They're talking about. I think they're talking about something else.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's being taken care of.
Okay, good.
What's happening?
Well, don't worry about it. But Chad, it's.
Oh, I see it. Okay, thanks for that.
Just there's a lot of Nazi emojis in the chat. I don't know if that's anything.
Dude.
Just ignore it.
Yeah.
But do you understand?
Anyways.
But also too, I want to point this out. There are very few, and I've looked over all the case law. I've looked at the people who have given briefs on this. Right, there are very few law experts and very few historians who say that Wong is wrong, or that those who are born here and subject to our jurisdiction of undocumented migrants are also not citizens. And that's why it's hard to find people who say that is wrong. You can find them, but they're very, very limited because it's been such settled case law.
But I'm sorry. I just can't get over what you're arguing, because in the Wong case, once again, just because they were arguing against citizenship doesn't mean that they were arguing that Wong or her parents were illegal. Just because they were parents were.
I know that, but in Wong, they were trying to make a case because there was an act of Congress that does not apply here. Because there was an act of Congress called the Chinese Exclusion Act.
Yeah,
that was directly in play here. That's not and they were saying things about the Chinese that made it, very wrong in that case. All that I'm saying, okay, he's gone. All I'm saying here is that they gave us that definition of what subject means, and that's what we've been going with for the last 120 years. So,
yeah, I just kicked him.
Okay.
I don't know. It's like,
Hey, Dean, are you?
I don't know. It's like, it's kind of like
he thought that was funny, I guess.
It's this interesting thing that we also saw on the guests before Greg, where it's like they believe in something very strongly. You know what I mean? They believe in it very strongly. They think that it's like super duper true. And then when there's like really compelling evidence to demonstrate why they're wrong, they just reject it, right? Like, his premise was that like undocumented immigrants don't have birthright citizenship because we haven't had like SCOTUS explicitly rule on the merits of the qualifications for it and on if undocumented immigrants apply, right? But then when we give him that merit, when we give him the ruling from SCOTUS to demonstrate that they've done exactly that, all of a sudden he doesn't care, right? We're able to like specifically quote like the Chief Justice of SCOTUS in 1897, where he ruled that, yeah, undocumented immigrants have this, right? Given the fact that he thinks anybody from another country that's domiciled in this country is subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof isn't any more complex, right, than within the jurisdiction thereof,
Yep.
right? Then like he just doesn't care, right? Because like what he's looking for is something that explicitly says undocumented immigrants have birthright citizenship from SCOTUS, all right? But like that's a very like unfair standard to hold here, because like SCOTUS has never explicitly said that he has birthright citizenship, all right? But the reason why it's an undeniable fact that he has birthright citizenship is because of the insurmountable, right, amount of case law and interpretation of the 14th to demonstrate exactly that. Like, not only is it what the framers intended, but it's also just what is agreed upon because of these SCOTUS rulings. What's up? Do you support Trump?
I'm a little bit on the back and forth with that. My question is more, what are your top two debates about him specifically?
Big time fascist, authoritarian. He's not a he's not a president that wants to play by the rules. He is a wannabe authoritarian leader that wants to set them.
Okay, explain beyond that.
Okay, well, I mean, do you support Trump?
I'm independent. I can see both sides of every side.
But like, knowing everything that you do now, if you were teleported back to November, who'd you vote for?
Oh, I don't vote.
What? Okay. Why are you here if you have no interest in American politics?
I do have an interest in American politics. It's about being able to be argumentative about it.
If you have an
why
interest
don't you
in
vote?
yeah, if you have an interest in American politics, then why don't you vote?
Why does having interest in American politics require you to be a voter?
Because that's
No, because voting is the ultimate expression of that opinion.
yeah.
Right. And nobody who goes out for candidacy is independent or expresses all views that I share.
Okay.
Do a write-in candidate.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, even on top of that, like nobody like expresses all the views that I share, but I mean, I kind of want the country to progress
Yeah, but like,
in the best direction possible.
but I would prefer that you vote for like basically anybody than like not vote at all because it's such an important right that like you're given that I just don't understand why you would not want to do it. Like I honestly can't understand that the whole viewpoint when if someone says I care about politics, but then the ultimate expression of that is voting, and you don't vote. Like it
Right.
just doesn't make sense to me.
Right, and then also like even if you think that both candidates are harmful, imagine that you had like two people come up to you. Person number one that came up to you was like, "Hey, right, I'm gonna slap you in the face," and then the other person is like, "Hey, I'm gonna shoot you 10 times." Well, I can't say that on TikTok. I guess I already did. I'm gonna. What the fuck? Okay. You understand, right? Do you think that you would vote and elect for the person to slap you compared for the person to shoot you, or do you just kind of be like, "Oh, I'm gonna roll the dice"?
Not necessarily. I mean, my husband, I get where you're coming from in the sense of the importance and having, as a voter, a right to vote and it being very
Can you
important.
answer my question though? Two people come up to you. One's like, "Hey, I want to slap you." The other one's like, "Hey, I want to shoot you." Right? And you had the ability to like elect which one of these persons did that thing to you. You get to choose if you're slapped or shot. Right? Would you choose to get slapped compared to being shot because it'd be less harmful compared to the alternative? Or would you just kind of like
That's the
roll
thing.
dice?
Being an independent, I could pick neither. Secret option number 3. I don't want to be slapped or shot.
Okay,
So
but guess-
none of the
but- but-
parties
but-
are the best option.
But is not voting going to prevent one of those two candidates from winning?
Not always,
Not ever.
because you still have
Not
electoral
ever.
colleges.
Not ever is it going to prevent one of those candidates from winning. Dude, like even like third party voters have a better argument than you because they're like, yo, if we just have enough people vote for them, then they'll get on the ballots in all states. And then if like everybody just magically woke up one day and was like, hey, I'm going to vote for this random third party candidate, they'd win. You don't even have that argument because you're not voting at all, right? So Democrats running against Republican, those are the only two viable candidates. Is you not voting going to prevent either of them from winning the election?
No.
All right. So then back to the hypothetical, right? Two people walk up to you. One's like, hey, I want to slap you. The other one's like, hey, I want to shoot you, right? And you have two possible responses. Your first possible response is to choose, right, if you're either slapped or shot. And then your second possible response is just to roll the dice and let fate choose if you're if you're slapped or shot? Are you going to roll the dice and let fate choose? Or are you going to ensure that you hold that power yourself?
Wouldn't it be a deeper conversation based off of everything that goes into it? How is he going to slap me? Is he going to slap me with his hand versus
Okay, it'd be with his
a
hand.
paddle?
Why not?
And that's how it goes into Democrats versus
Okay,
Republicans.
okay. He's going to slap you with your hand. Now that you know that, now can you answer the question?
Well, that's where the choice can defer into independency, where you don't have to pick on either side.
Listen,
or
my
it's one
friend,
versus the other.
This happens. Somebody wants to slap you. Somebody wants to shoot you. Would you rather elect for if you get slapped or shot, like you get to choose which one occurs to you, or do you roll the dice and let fate choose?
And that's where you're not understanding and you're not being open-minded. You're saying in the same respect, saying blue or red, Trump or Biden, let's say, all based on one topic that you could bring up, slap or shot.
Listen, we're not talking about Trump or Biden here. We're talking about, right, two people walking up to you, one being like, I want to slap you, the other one being like, I want to shoot you and kill you, right? If you had the choice to choose between which one of the two people did that thing to you, right, or you like just left it up to fate and it was completely random who did what to you, what would you choose?
Same position stance. Again, secret option number 3 with the independency. I understand you're giving me the two options, but
what's the
also
third option?
not voting, it is a yes or a no, not a one or the other.
Wait, what's the third option between electing for if you're slapped, electing for if you're shot, or like not electing for it and just letting fate decide? What's the third option?
The independency. You said
can you expand on that?
Choose
like, what's the third
between
option?
getting shot or slapped.
In this hypothetical that I'm
not.
giving you, what's the third option? You either choose what happens to you, or you don't choose, and one of them randomly happened to you. What's the third option?
Why is one of them a guarantee?
Can you repeat that?
Why is one of them a guarantee?
Because it is.
That's a great argument.
I mean, all that I'm positing here is that one is a guarantee, right? I don't need to explain why, it just is. Right? So given that one's a guarantee, would you like to choose which one is guaranteed? Or would you just like leave it up to fate and let it be random?
I mean, I think that does give more context. If it's a guarantee, then yeah, absolutely choose.
Okay.
But it's not also a guarantee when it comes to voting.
Yes,
if
it
I
is.
vote for Trump, it's not a guarantee. If I vote for the Democrat Party, it's not a guarantee.
Unless the country falls, a candidate that runs for election will win election. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But that's where I'm not on the teetering.
So then one of the outcomes is a guarantee. So of course you're going to elect for the least harmful guarantee, right?
Neither are least harmful where we are in society today.
Dude,
all we're doing is dumping.
Wait, you think that Donald Trump is just as bad for this country as Kamala Harris? Did Kamala Harris intend to take health care away from 10 million low-income Americans? And did Donald Trump intend to ensure that all women and girls, regardless of where they live, have access to abortion?
I don't think it's a basis on who is worse. I think it's a basis on who's more qualified. And neither of them are.
Wouldn't qualifications just play into who's better at doing the job? That's the only reason why qualifications are relevant?
Exactly.
Okay, so at the end of the day, it does
from
fall
what
down
I
to
see,
who's better and
Kamala's
who's
not
worse.
qualified at all versus Trump, who is still not qualified. Neither have great options regardless, but neither of them are also qualified.
So do you think
hence me not voting.
So do you think that Donald Trump is more harmful, or do you think that Kamala Harris was more harmful?
They're equally bad.
Okay, right. I completely disagree. Can I tell you why I disagree?
Absolutely.
One way that they're not equally as bad is Kamala Harris didn't think that it was illegal to criticize her in the media like Donald Trump does, and the repercussions that has on the rule of law and our individual freedoms and liberties by promoting authoritarian-esque rhetoric. Kamala Harris wasn't held civilly liable for raping a woman like Trump. Kamala Harris didn't run on tax policy to redistribute wealth from the poor to the rich like Trump. Okay, these are all examples on how like Kamala Harris was better than Trump, obviously demonstrating that they're not equally as bad.
I think Kamala would be a very bad example in this example simply because we don't know enough about her. She wouldn't even do interviews. So how could we know how she wants to do things, how she actually wants to run things?
Because she
may put out a piece of paper that says, I would like to do this, but never did a single interview. So why would I trust that?
So I mean, she did do interviews. She did 60 Minutes. She did Fox News. She did CNN. She did a handful of town halls. That's true. Right. But even with what we do know, which is what we're talking about, right? We know that she's not as bad as Trump.
I still don't understand where you're coming to that conclusion because
What?
Kamala hasn't done anything
Oh, that's not true. You just
that
don't,
we know.
You just don't know what she's done, right? But she's done a lot. She served in all three branches of government. She worked her way up from an attorney in San Francisco to DA of San Fran, AG of California, Senator of California, Vice President of America, then, of course, on her own presidential ticket. And while she was serving as vice president, she passed the most tie-breaking votes in the history of the Senate from the, as the VP. As well, she worked alongside Biden to pass some of the most monumental and influential policy in modern American history, like the PACT Act, CHIPS and Science Act, American Rescue Plan, Infrastructure Bill, so on and so forth. So just because you don't know these things doesn't mean they aren't true.
Yeah, Paige. Let's say that everything that Dean just said, I gave you on a piece of paper as like a resume, but I like left out the name of the person. You had no idea who this person was. Would you say, not knowing who the person was and simply basing it on what Dean just said, that person is qualified?
I mean, on a basis of presidency, I would be very terrified if you handed me a piece of paper of your qualifications. To be real.
What about that terrifying?
And my idea here isn't to be argumentative. It is, in fact,
I'm asking you, if we had candidates that had no name on it, right, and all we had was like some kind of document, right, and it gave everything that this person has done and all their successes and everything, and what Dean laid out to you, and you saw that, but you had no idea who it was, would you say that person is not qualified?
Oh my God.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, no. But then if we got the same paper from
she's
Trump,
not qualified. Sorry. Therefore, she's not qualified.
Yeah.
Right. And like I said, my point here isn't to be argumentative or anything. I am here to learn. Again, being independent, I'd like to have 50-50 or 100-100. I'm not on either side, but I'm also saying.
I guess we'll never know what she's saying. Dude, I honestly, I may like end up privating the VOD for this stream on YouTube. Like, this stream has been so insufferably bad. I think that this is like literally like worst stream of all time. Like, what's going on? What's going on with like the guests tonight? It's like, dude, oh my God. I'm just like so like dazed and confused with whatever is going on tonight and what is like gotten into the guests. I actually have like a really bad headache because of it. Like, this is just terrible.
I understand.
Yo, Claudia, thank you so much for the $100 over on Venmo.
Hey,
I appreciate you for that. Love, Claudia. Claudia with a $100 says your patience with this guest is on another level. Stay cool, Dean. Keep crushing the Trump supporters. Claudia, it's not even patience anymore. It's defeat. You know, it's seriously, it's not even like patience. It's just like an insensitivity to like just to defeat and just feeling like there's nothing I could do. So like, why even get like upset about something that I just don't think is an item under my control? I can't control or change the fact that everybody we've spoken to today has just been impossible. Impossible. Just impossible to have a dialogue with every single person. Claudia, once again, thank you so much for the $100. That is seriously so kind of you. Let's get 1,000.
And also, I just want to say thank you to Stephanie for the 50. Thank you so much, Stephanie. W to you. Thank you to Erica for the 4 and to Denise for the 30. Thank you all so much. It really means a lot to me. Thank you.
Hello.
Hey, what's up? How are you?
15.
All right, take care, man. Gotta be at least 18 to be on live. As well 15. As, Ariel, thank you so much for the $10 over on Venmo. I appreciate you for that love, Ariel. Show some love to Ariel down below in that comment section while we're working on getting that next guest up. As well as Wesley, thank you for the $13 on Venmo, who says, I spent almost 2 months off work.
Dean's a nigger, Dean's a nigger, Dean's a nigger, Dean's a nigger, Dean's a nigger.
Gonna go to get him banned. Wesley with the $12 says, I spent 2 months off work studying every president by ranking them. I can say with the utmost certainty that Trump will be remembered as bottom 10 of all time, and Biden will be ranked as above average. Supporting Trump is delusional. I'd say that, yeah, like Trump, you kind of hit the head on the nail there in the last part of the sentence saying bottom 5. I think that Trump is like bottom 3. You know, it's like we've had some really bad presidents before, folks. You know, like Andrew Jackson, like the Trail of Tears, right? Like really, really bad. And you know that's why I think when people say that he's like the worst president of all time, you know, I think like that's yet to be seen with certainty.
Yeah, the one who's often said to be the worst of all time is James Buchanan because basically he did nothing to prevent the Civil War. So he ranks I think at the bottom, but Trump will be will be really close to the bottom.
Yeah, 110%. As well as Daniel, thank you so much for the $7 over on Venmo. Appreciate you for that love. As well as Christian, thank you so much for the $10 as well. Saying, hey, do you know King's Day was epic? Came across some folks in the awesome animal costumes. That's so cool. As well as Quay, thank you for the $10 on Venmo, who says, DOD employee not getting paid. Fuck Trump. Dude, I'm really sorry that you're not getting paid. Are you still having to work? Like, are you an essential worker? And if so, I really hope that, you know, the shutdown ends soon. I bumped into some really kind TSA agents while I was flying out to DC, and I made sure to thank them all for working, even when they're not getting paid. And it was kind of rough, you know, like they started to, you know, like tell me that they're going to have to get loans soon to pay their bills. As well as Jennifer, thank you so much for the $40 over on Venmo. This came in literally 40 minutes ago. I really hope that you're still here. Jennifer says a constitutional right cannot be abridged by an executive order cooking, referencing the last conversation with the crazy guy. Absolutely, you are correct. Constitutional rights cannot be abridged by literally anything. Kaylin, thank you for the $10, who says thank you for the work that you're doing. Appreciate you for that love, Kaylin. That is incredibly, incredibly kind of you. Thank you for your kindness. As well as, let's see here. I think we had one more on Venmo here. No, it wasn't on Venmo. It must have been on PayPal. Oh, here it was. Kaylee, that is K-A-L-I-E. Thank you for the $50 over on PayPal. I appreciate you for that love, Kaylee. Let's get 500 Kaylee W's in that chat. That is as I already said, K-A-L-I-E. Kaylee says, been a while since I've been able to catch your stream. Much love from Colorado. Well, dude, much love to wherever you're at in Colorado. I'm also out here in CO. What a beautiful state. I appreciate you for the $50 and thank you for tuning in. As well as Mickey. Thank you so much for the $20 on PayPal. What does Mickey say? Mickey says, this is the most exciting conversation I've ever seen Dean have. I think that was referencing the Constitution guy. All right, Mickey. All right, buddy. As well as Sonia, thank you for the 5. Jody, thank you for the 3. Felicia, thank you for the 10. And Jason, thank you so much. It's Wex, thank you so much for the 10. Saying thank you for finally kicking the pseudo-intellectual. Oh, real quick, I also need to thank Susan for the $50 over on Super Chat on YouTube. Appreciate you for that. Love, Susan. Let's get 500 big Susan W's. Thank you so much, Susan. As well as Manny, thank you for the $10. And let's see here. Josh with the 5. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, listen, I'm not going to lie. I'm defeated for the day. Been up since 5 a.m. flying all day long in and out of
5 a.m.
airports.
Yeah, like here on the east too. That's
adjusted for time zone. So I woke up.
Oh, is it? Okay, good.
7 a.m. EST, and then which is 5 a.m. my time, and then I flew all day long, and then I came home and we're just having these terrible discussions. I think we're gonna try one more, and then I'll probably get off after like one last discussion. But I mean, I bet you guys could even tell just by like the tone of my voice that I'm just losing it. You know, I'm terribly, terribly tired. What's up, Bob? Do you support Trump?
Some of his policies, not all of them.
Okay, so knowing everything that you do today, if you were teleported back to November, who'd you vote for?
Independent.
Okay, so you want to vote for either of them. Take care, Bob. Moving on to the next guest. This is going to be one of our last attempts.
Let's go. Here. What's up, Dean?
Hey, what's up? How old are you?
I'm 21.
Okay, and are you Maga?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell us why you support the worst president of your 21 years of life.
I would have a different opinion, to be honest. I think he does everything what he needs to do. he is doing everything that he needs to do right now. To be honest, the way he talks, the way he does everything is just perfect.
Everything he does is perfect?
Yes, bro.
Are
You don't love that
trolling?
man? No, bro.
So was it perfect when he said the real enemy is the enemy from within, and that he's declaring a war from within, then deployed the military in American cities and gave them an illegal directive to violate the Posse Comitatus Act and to arrest American citizens on the street? But then he like turned around and of course pardoned George Santos, even though he was convicted to 8 years in jail for identity theft and fraud, and the 72 people that he pardoned that tried to kill cops on the steps of the Capitol on J6. Is that like perfect? I mean, it's a perfect contradiction, right? But I don't think it's perfect in the sense that you're relaying like Jesus 2.0.
I mean, we can talk about January 6th, but we could talk about the BLM riots that the Biden administration left going on for months that destroyed cities, destroyed small businesses.
Yeah, the
We're gonna talk about
BLM, the BLM riots happened under Donald Trump in 2020.
Cap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
he left. He left.
Well, that
that was a quick one. That was a very quick one. Oh God. All right. One last donation here. Judy, thank you so much for the $44 over on Venmo.
Yeah.
I appreciate you for that love, Judy. Show some love to Judy down below. Judy with the $44 says, because I miss our 44th president. Keep up the stellar work, team. Love from Colorado. Thank you, Judy. I bet you're from Boulder. You're so cool. I bet you're from Boulder. That's a compliment, Judy. Thank you so much for the $44. Okay. Listen, I think that's going to be the conversation and on for the evening. What a rough stream today. Listen, Matt, I appreciate you for coming up. It's always fun.
yeah, thanks for having me up, Dean. I do appreciate it also.
Yeah.
Means a lot.
Take care.
Yep. Bye. You take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye, Matt. Yeah, I'm going to go on an end. What a day. What a day. It's time for me to go get some ice cream and watch TV. I'll see you guys tomorrow.